Chapter 30-55. Don't worry about it. The little brat rolled his eyes and looked at Qin Feiyang expressionlessly, and said, I'm here to inform you that the axe and the sunset bow, these heaven-defying divine artifact, have already evolved to the peak level. Peak level? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. The little brat nodded, and said, the Blood Demon Tower and the Dragon-Slaying Sword, the 4 heaven-defying divine artifact, have also evolved to the intermediate heaven-defying divine artifact. Sure. Qin Feiyang was overjoyed. The intermediate heaven-defying divine artifact was equivalent to the initial Dominator realm. The peak-level heaven-defying divine artifact was even more terrifying, equivalent to the Dominator realm. In other words, even if he faced Zhuo Tianxing now, he would not be afraid at all. One last thing, I still need to continue robbing the spirit vein and crystal vein outside. The little brat said. Cough cough. Don't make it sound so bad. Qin Feiyang coughed dryly and laughed. Robbing is robbing, what else can you say? Robbing the rich to help the poor? The little brat rolled his eyes at Qin Feiyang, and then disappeared without a trace. Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly, closed his eyes, and extended his perception. Soon. A trace of bewilderment crept up in his eyes. Gradually. This bewilderment turned into surprise. He didn't expect that Black Tortoise Realm had unknowingly grown so much. The current Black Tortoise Realm was almost the size of half of the Divine Continent. The Divine Continent was divided into the East, West, South, North, and Divine Dragon Island. In other words, the current Black Tortoise Realm was comparable to the North, South, and half of Divine Dragon Island. No wonder that little brat told him to rob some more spirit vein and crystal vein. The Black Tortoise Realm had grown so much, so the energy of the crystal vein and spirit vein would naturally be distributed by these new places. The original places would naturally become weaker than before. Crystal vein, spirit vein, there was no hurry. After all, there were many in the sky cloud realm. Qin Feiyang returned home. He hadn't seen his beloved woman for so many years. Naturally, he was burning with passion. After a while, the mermaid princess nestled in Qin Feiyang's arms with a flushed face and said, Senior brother Crazy hasn't come out yet? It took him a lot of time to reconstruct his divine soul and body. He might need more time to break through. Qin Feiyang smiled. Then go and investigate what difficulties Zhuo Tianxing and the others have. All these years, I've sent him messages every now and then, but he never responded. The mermaid princess said. No response. Qin Feiyang was taken aback. Yes. The mermaid princess nodded and said worriedly, I'm thinking, did something happen to Zhuo Tianxing? This is indeed strange. Zhuo Tianxing loves Zhuo Xiaoxian so much. There's no way he would ignore her. Okay, I'll go out and take a look later. Qin Feiyang nodded and then pressed the mermaid princess down. He chuckled and said, continue. After a while, Qin Feiyang finally walked out of the house with satisfaction. He stood in the yard and sensed the aura around him. Qin Batian and Lu Zhengyang's aura were still at the great perfection imperishable stage. After all, they were mainly comprehending the power of laws now. People like Fire Lotus, Qin Rushuang, White-Eyed Wolf, Wang Ming, Yang Li, Zhao Tailai, Blood Kirin, and Tang Hai had mostly broken through to the initial imperishable stage. Because they were basically cultivating in seclusion, their speed was naturally faster than Qin Feiyang. Only people like Wang Xiaojie, Long Tianyu, Big Black Wolf, and Qin Chen were still lacking in cultivation. Big Black Wolf and Black Panther had no time to cultivate because they were managing the affairs of the Black Tortoise Realm. Wang Xiaojie and the others naturally entered the Black Tortoise Realm later. In comparison, Wang Xiaojie was not as good as Long Tianyu and Qin Chen. Because Long Tianyu and Qin Chen had entered the Black Tortoise realm earlier than Wang Xiaojie. However, the three of them had all opened the door of potential. Coupled with endless resources, they would catch up sooner or later. After all, the later realms required more time than the previous. Just like now. The time Qin Feiyang took to break through a small realm was enough for Wang Xiaojie and the others to break through several realms. Suddenly. He looked at Madman's yard. Madman was in seclusion in the castle like him, so only Zhuo Xiaoxian lived in the yard. But now, he did not sense Zhuo Xiaoxian's aura. Qin Feiyang released his perception and did not find her in the Devil's Land. Then, he extended his perception to Zhongzhou and the four major regions. Zhongzhou, which had been empty, was now almost occupied by the beasts of the Black Tortoise realm. The strongest ferocious beasts were all at the Great Perfection Ninth Heaven realm. A moment later. He finally found Zhuo Xiaoxian in a city in the southern region. He saw Zhuo Xiaoxian walking alone on the crowded street, looking around with curiosity in her eyes. Whoosh! Qin Feiyang took a step forward and appeared in front of Zhuo Xiaoxian. Zhuo Xiaoxian was startled. She was about to greet him. Look! It's the ruler. The people on the street became restless. It's really the ruler in person. Greetings, ruler. At that instant, everyone on the street bowed and greeted him. Ugh! Zhuo Xiaoxian stared at the scene in astonishment. I didn't expect everyone to still remember me after so many years. Qin Feiyang wore a faint smile. How could we forget? Look over there, one of the old men pointed at the center of the city. Qin Feiyang raised his head and immediately saw a stone statue over 10 meters tall at the center of the city. The owner of the stone statue was none other than him. Even though it's been a long time since the battle with the dragons, as long as your statue is still here, we will never forget you. Even your descendants see you as their idol. Everyone spoke one after another. It was a great honor to be able to see the ruler in person. They could brag about it for the rest of their lives. Qin Feiyang shook his head and chuckled. What a bunch of adorable people. All right then, you can continue with your business. With that, Qin Feiyang waved his hand and brought Zhuo Xiaoxian to a deserted mountain peak. I really didn't expect you to not be from the Sky Cloud realm. Zhuo Xiaoxian looked at Qin Feiyang's side profile. There seemed to be a hint of fear in her eyes. So you already know. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. I've been traveling all over the Black Tortoise realm. I've heard about your deeds everywhere. It's hard for me not to know. Zhuo Xiaoxian said. Yes. The Black Tortoise realm isn't some kind of spatial godly object. It's an independent world, and I'm the ruler of this world. Qin Feiyang nodded. The fear in Zhuo Xiaoxian's eyes grew thicker after Qin Feiyang admitted it himself. You don't have to be afraid of me just because you know these things. I'm still your Qin Dage. You're still a part of the Devil's Land. Qin Feiyang turned to look at Zhuo Xiaoxian and said with a smile. Zhuo Xiaoxian looked at Qin Feiyang. Looking at that gentle smile, the fear in her heart disappeared. She giggled, and very naturally hooked her arm around Qin Feiyang's arm, as if they were siblings. She said, Big brother Qin, you really scared me, you know? Are you that timid? Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Are you kidding? This isn't a continent. It's a complete world. How scary is that? The most shocking thing is that you're not from the Sky Cloud realm. Qin Dage, I heard from the people of the Black Tortoise realm that you're from a place called Great Qin. Is Great Qin fun? Zhuo Xiaoxian asked with a yearning look. Fun? Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. He nodded and said, It's quite fun. I'll take you there when I have the chance. Okay. Zhuo Xiaoxian nodded and then said, then why did you come to the Sky Cloud Realm? Apart from the Sky Cloud Realm, how many other continents like Great Qin are there? There are quite a few places like Great Qin, but they can't compare to the Sky Cloud Realm. As for why we came to the Sky Cloud Realm, of course, it's because the Sky Cloud Realm is big enough. It's only interesting to come here and explore. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. You're not telling the truth, right? Once, when I was chatting with sister-in-law, she vaguely mentioned that you seemed to be here to save someone. But when I asked her who it was, she fell silent. She even looked depressed. Is the person you want to save related to sister-in-law? Zhuo Xiaoxian was like a curious child. Don't ask me about this. If you want to ask your sister-in-law. If she doesn't say, I don't dare to say. Qin Feiyang smiled. I didn't expect that Qin Dage is also a henpecked husband. Zhuo Xiaoxian looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise, as if she had discovered a new continent. Cough cough. Qin Feiyang coughed dryly. How did he become a henpecked husband? That, I still have something to deal with. You go back to the Devil's Land and stay there. Don't run around. Everyone doesn't know about your relationship with me. What if you meet a bad person? Also, you must not tell anyone about the situation in the Black Tortoise Realm, not even your father and adoptive father. Qin Feiyang warned. Don't worry about this. I still know the principle that a man's wealth is his own ruin. I will definitely keep it a secret for you. Zhuo Xiaoxian giggled. Qin Feiyang smiled and sent Zhuo Xiaoxian to the Devil's Land. Don't say. She was really a sensible and obedient girl. No wonder even the city lord liked her so much. Wind Sea City. Even after 50 years, the arrest warrant was still there. The city gate was strictly guarded. In addition to that, there was an invisible barrier above the city. The barrier was constructed by the city lord himself. It was to prevent anyone from using the teleportation altar to teleport into the city. Apart from the Wind Sea City, all the cities in the eastern continent were basically the same. In other words, to enter and leave the cities, one would have to pass through the city gates. If you dare to force your way in, I'm sorry, but someone would immediately appear to kill you. South City Gate, a young man in a white shirt stood at the city gate and stared at the arrest warrant on the city wall with a frown. The young man in a white shirt was surrounded by many people, but it was as if he was transparent. No one could see him. That's right. The man was Qin Feiyang. At that moment, he had activated the concealment technique, thus no one was aware of his existence. Reading the content of the arrest warrant, Qin Feiyang's face was filled with astonishment. What exactly was going on? Zhuo Tiansheng had severed their relationship as father and daughter, and even put an arrest warrant on Zhuo Xiaoxian? It was not a big deal to put him and the madman on the wanted list, but it was too strange to put Zhuo Xiaoxian on the wanted list. What was the reason behind this? That Zhuo Tiansheng had no choice but to do this? Chapter 3056. Qin Feiyang withdrew his gaze and glanced at the guards at the entrance of the city. In the end, he stepped forward and entered the city silently, heading straight for the city lord's mansion. It was necessary to investigate this matter. The duration of the concealment technique was limited, thus he had to pick up his pace. A moment later, he appeared at the entrance of the city lord's mansion. The security of the city lord's mansion was tighter than before, but it did not affect Qin Feiyang at all. He went straight into the city lord's mansion as if there was no one there. Soon, he encountered two young men. The two young men were wearing luxurious clothes. Their faces were filled with arrogance as they walked toward him side by side. Third brother, what do you think is going on? Zhuo Xiaoxian has been expelled from the clan, and we don't even know if she's dead or alive. Why is father still treating us the same as before? One of the young men frowned. I'm wondering the same thing. You're talking about the past, when that bitch Xiaofan was still around. Father only doted on her and ignored us. It was still reasonable. But now, they have severed their relationship as father and daughter. Are we really that unimportant in father's eyes? The other young man was not in a good mood either. It seems like our situation hasn't changed much even after Xiaofan left. And I heard that big brother has been going to the ancestral land every few days. I wonder what he's going to do. Do you even need to think about it? The elders of the Zhua clan are all living in seclusion in the ancestral land. He must be going there to curry favor with them. Because once he gets the approval of the elders, he will be the next patriarch of the Zhua clan, and will inherit the position of the vice-city lord. Let me tell you, this big brother of ours is very shrewd. Forget it, let's not talk about these unhappy things. Let's go to the Purple Smoke Tower and have some fun. I heard that a lot of beautiful ladies have come recently. Really? Why don't we go and take a look? The two of them laughed mischievously as they walked past Qin Feiyang and headed towards the main gate of the city lord's mansion. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered as he looked at their backs. These two men must be one of Zhuo Xiaoxian's half-brothers. Not only were they not concerned about Zhuo Xiaoxian being wanted, they were even gloating over her misfortune. It seemed like Zhuo Xiaoxian's situation in the Zhuo clan was not very good. Another moment passed. Qin Feiyang encountered two more guards. I really don't know who the lord of the Fenghua Palace is. Even the two city lords have to obey him. That's right. Judging from his cultivation, he should be around the same level as the city lord. However, when he looks at the burly man, it's as if he's looking at his ancestor. The two guards whispered to each other as they walked over and passed by Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang was stunned. An existence that even the city lord and Zhuo Tiansheng had to obey had come to the city lord's mansion? The Fenghua Palace. Qin Feiyang's eyes twinkled as he sent a voice transmission. Xiaoxian, where is the Fenghua Palace? Ah, Qin Dage, are you in the city lord's mansion now? Zhuo Xiaoxian's voice sounded with a hint of surprise. Qin Feiyang said to himself, don't ask so many questions. Just tell me. All right. Zhuo Xiaoxian told Qin Feiyang the exact location of the Fenghua Palace. Immediately, Qin Feiyang stealthily made his way to the Fenghua Palace. About 100 breaths later, a magnificent palace entered Qin Feiyang's line of sight. The doors of the palace were ajar and there was not a single guard around. However, he could clearly sense three auras inside the palace. Two of them were the city lord and Zhuo Tiansheng. The other aura was very unfamiliar. Qin Feiyang walked to the doors and looked inside. He saw the burly man sitting on a chair above. The city lord and Zhuo Tiansheng stood below him respectfully. The burly man glared at the two of them and shouted, "It's been 50 years and you still haven't found anything. What are you doing? Lord Messenger, there's nothing we can do. The eastern continent is so big. If they're determined to hide, it'll be like looking for a needle in a haystack." Zhuo Tiansheng shook his head and sighed. That's enough. Stop complaining. I don't mind. However, the Deputy Alliance leader keeps urging me. You know the Deputy Alliance leader's temper. If we still can't find Qin Feiyang and the others, I'm afraid we'll all be in trouble. The burly man sighed. The city lord and Zhuo Tiansheng remained silent. The burly man looked at Zhuo Tiansheng and continued, especially you. Qin Feiyang and the others only ran away because of your daughter. Although you've already severed your father-daughter relationship, if you truly anger the Vice Alliance Master, there's no need for me to tell you the consequences. Zhuo Tiansheng shuddered and hurriedly said, Lord Messenger, I'm loyal to the Itinerant Cultivator Alliance. Don't tell me that. You should tell the Deputy Alliance leader. The burly man shook his head. Zhuo Tiansheng looked worried. The city lord comforted him, "Old Zhuo, you don't have to be too nervous. The deputy alliance leader is a reasonable person. After explaining the situation, he'll probably punish you at most." "Wrong," the burly man said. The two looked at the burly man. "To tell you the truth, the deputy alliance leader is very concerned about Qin Feiyang and the others. I've never seen him want to kill someone so much. Therefore, if this matter is really investigated, Zhuo Tiansheng, you'll definitely die," the burly man said in a deep voice. Zhuo Tiansheng's pupils shrank, full of horror. Buzz. At this moment, the burly man's divine sound transmission stone sounded. The burly man took it out and his face suddenly changed. He looked at the city lord and Zhuo Tiansheng and said, "It's the deputy alliance leader." The two shuddered. The burly man took a deep breath and activated the divine sound transmission stone. The image of the green-robed old man immediately emerged. "Greetings, deputy alliance leader." The three of them immediately bowed respectfully. "How's the progress?" the green-robed old man asked. "Sir, there's no progress. It's as if the two of them disappeared from the world. We even suspect that they've left the eastern continent," the burly man said respectfully. "Humph. What a bunch of trash." The green-robed old man immediately snorted. The three shuddered and hurriedly knelt on the ground, saying, "Please forgive us, sir. Zhuo Tiansheng, I'll give you another 50 years. If you can't find them, your Zhuo family will be exterminated," the green-robed old man said. His hoarse voice was filled with coldness and ruthlessness. "Sir, please forgive us." Zhuo Tiansheng's face suddenly turned pale. "Sir, if Qin Feiyang and the others really left the eastern continent, then even if you kill Zhuo Tiansheng, it'll be useless." The city lord glanced at Zhuo Tiansheng and said respectfully to the green-robed old man, "You still dare to plead for him? You don't know about this, but you can't absolve yourself from the blame?" The green-robed old man shouted. "I'm sorry." The city lord hurriedly knelt on the ground. The green-robed old man glanced at the two of them and said in a deep voice, "In short, you only have 50 years. Take care of yourselves." After saying that, the illusory figure disappeared. Zhuo Tiansheng raised his head and looked at the city lord and the burly man. He said helplessly, "What should I do? What else can you do? Of course you have to hurry up and find them." The burly man shook his head. Vice Alliance leader, Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. He turned around and left quietly. It turned out that the Vice Alliance leader of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance wanted to kill him. It was no wonder that Zhuo Tiansheng would make such a choice. On one hand, it was the Vice Alliance leader's order. On the other hand, it was his beloved daughter. He could only choose to sever their father-daughter relationship and protect the Zhuo family. However, he did not expect that even if he severed their father-daughter relationship, he would not be able to escape this disaster. After leaving Wind Sea City, Qin Feiyang returned to the Black Tortoise Realm and told the Mermaid Princess about this. The Mermaid Princess heard this and sighed. "Don't tell Zhuo Xiaoxian about this for now," Qin Feiyang reminded her. "I know." The Mermaid Princess nodded and sighed. "But we can't let Zhuo Tiansheng bear this pressure alone." Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, "Let's wait for senior brother Madman to come out of seclusion and see what he wants. Anyway, there are still 50 years. There's no hurry." Next, Qin Feiyang began to comprehend the power of laws. He had already comprehended the first profound divine ability of the light law. So now, he was comprehending the lightning law and the karma law. Especially the karma law. The karma law was one of the strongest laws in the world, so he had to be more focused. Time passed quietly. Outside, 5 years had passed. Boom! On this day, another shocking divine might erupted from the ancient castle. Zhuo Xiaoxian ran out of the courtyard immediately. Her eyes were filled with joy as she looked at the ancient castle. Because the owner of this divine might was Madman. Swoosh! Soon, Madman took a step out of the ancient castle and withdrew his aura. Little Madman, Zhuo Xiaoxian immediately ran up and burrowed into Madman's arms. Looking at the woman in his arms, a hint of tenderness flashed across Madman's eyes. Then, he laughed and said, "How long has it been, and you're already thinking of me?" "Who's thinking of you?" Zhuo Xiaoxian rolled her eyes, but she had no intention of getting out of Madman's arms. Her red cheeks were filled with a happy smile. Looking at that red face, Madman couldn't help but feel restless. "You're out of seclusion." The mermaid princess walked out at this time. Madman nodded and asked, "Where's old Qin?" "He's comprehending the power of laws." The mermaid princess smiled slightly. "You're really hard-working. But no matter how hard you work, you won't be able to catch up to me." Madman smiled proudly. His law of slaughter had already comprehended the second profound divine ability. If he worked harder, the third profound divine ability would be out soon. "Is that so?" Suddenly, Qin Feiyang's voice sounded in the attic. Following that, a bolt of lightning shot into the sky. That bolt of lightning was Qin Feiyang. At this moment, he was wearing a purple gold battle armor that seemed to be made of divine lightning, emitting a dazzling divine light. And in his hand, there was a translucent divine sword that was extremely sharp. Madman raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyang. When he saw the battle armor and divine sword, he was stunned and asked, "Is this the profound divine ability of the law of thunder and the law of karma? Come and try." Qin Feiyang didn't answer and looked at him provocatively. "Fine, I'll try. You think I'm afraid of you?" Madman smiled coldly and gently pushed Zhuo Xiaoxian away. With a clang, the sword of slaughter appeared. Following that, he took a step into the sky and slashed at Qin Feiyang. Chapter 3057. Sword of Slaughter. As the first profound ability of the law of slaughter, its power was naturally terrifying. But Qin Feiyang didn't retreat at all. He waved the divine sword in his hand and slashed at the sword of slaughter. In an instant, the two collided with each other. Like real divine weapons, blinding sparks flew from the collision. Crack! At the same time, an ear-piercing shattering sound rang out. The madman was stunned. He looked at the sword of slaughter in his hand and found that there was a small crack on the blade. "How is it?" Qin Feiyang smiled proudly. "That's impossible." The madman frowned. He looked at the divine sword in Qin Feiyang's hand and asked suspiciously, "What is this thing?" Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "The first profound ability of the law of karma, sword of karma." "So it's the law of karma," the madman muttered. He had long heard that the law of karma was one of the strongest laws in the world, and its power surpassed other laws. He didn't believe it before, but he didn't expect it to be true. They were both first profound abilities, but the law of slaughter was no match for it. Again, Qin Feiyang took the initiative to attack the madman. "Kid, don't be so smug." The madman laughed cruelly. Wielding his sword of slaughter, he began to fight with Qin Feiyang. The two's speed was pushed to the limit. Zhuo Xiaoxian couldn't see their figures at all. She could only hear the loud sounds of each collision. Crack! About a few hundred breaths later, accompanied by a crisp sound, the sword of slaughter in the madman's hand finally shattered. But the divine sword in Qin Feiyang's hand was intact. "I can't accept it. They are both law of karma, how can the difference be so big?" The madman was furious. While Qin Feiyang wasn't paying attention, he used an auxiliary technique and rushed behind Qin Feiyang. Boom! Following closely, he punched Qin Feiyang's back. However, Qin Feiyang was wearing armor. When the madman's punch landed on the armor, Qin Feiyang didn't seem to feel anything at all. He didn't even move. What the hell is this? Madman looked at the armor in shock. Qin Feiyang turned around to look at Madman and proudly said, "The first profound divine ability of the law of thunder, thunder armor." He has already comprehended 2 profound divine abilities? That's too fast. Madman's mouth twitched. This is fast. I've been in seclusion for 5 years. Think about it. 5 years in the outside world, how many years would that be in the Black Tortoise world? Qin Feiyang was speechless. Madman paused for a moment before gritting his teeth. That's true. How is it? Do you admit defeat? Qin Feiyang grinned. Despicable. Watch my sword. The madman's face was filled with disdain. With a clang, another blood-red sword appeared. You cheated. Qin Feiyang said angrily. This was not the first profound divine ability, the Sword of Slaughter. It was the second profound divine ability, the Sword of Slaughter. You didn't say that I can't use the second profound divine ability. Brat, wake up. Madman laughed and slashed at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang quickly waved the Karma sword to meet it. With a loud clang, the Karma sword broke on the spot. Immediately after, the Sword of Slaughter landed on Qin Feiyang's body and the terrifying sharpness instantly tore through the thunder armor. But at this moment, the Sword of Slaughter stopped. Madman looked at Qin Feiyang proudly and said, "Brat, do you admit defeat?" Scram! Qin Feiyang raised his hand and slapped the Sword of Slaughter away. You have the nerve to be proud after activating the second profound divine ability? You don't admit defeat? Again. Madman clamored. He didn't know how to write the word shameless. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. No matter how strong the karma law was, it couldn't be compared to the second profound divine ability of the law of slaughter. In other words, for example, the karma law, the spacetime law, the time law, these strongest laws were at most invincible among the same level. It was still impossible for him to jump ranks. But even so, it was still very terrifying. Because there were only a few stages in total, to be able to sweep through the same stage was already very impressive. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and the broken karma sword dissipated. Then, he said, "Let's talk business." Madman said, "Don't change the topic. We haven't decided the winner yet." Qin Feiyang really wanted to give her a slap. She was still so excited. "I really have something to say." Qin Feiyang looked at Zhuo Shaoxian below and said, "After I broke through to the initial stage of the Undying Realm, I went to Wine Sea City and the City Lord's mansion." Madman was slightly taken aback. He also dispersed the Sword of Slaughter in his hand and asked, "Is there a situation?" "Yes." Qin Feiyang told Madman everything through the voice transmission. "So that's how it is." Madman muttered. "What I mean is, we can't let Zhuo Tianxing shoulder this pressure alone." Qin Feiyang secretly said. "Definitely not. After all, everything he did was for that silly girl." Madman glanced at Zhuo Shaoxian. If Zhuo Shaoxian knew about this, she would probably cry. "Then what do you think we should do?" Qin Feiyang secretly asked. Madman pondered for a while, then leaned over to Qin Feiyang's ear and whispered a few words. Qin Feiyang was slightly startled and whispered, "Is this okay? After all, they will be your brother-in-law in the future." "Brother-in-law? You're thinking too much. Those selfish and heartless trash, how can they be worthy of being my brother-in-law?" Madman's face was full of disdain. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed, thinking, alright, since these people usually have the intention to harm Zhuo Xiaoxian, we'll take the initiative. Then let's go now. Madman asked. Let's go. Qin Feiyang laughed and lowered his head to look at the mermaid princess. We have something to do. Without waiting for a response, the two of them disappeared without a trace. What's the rush? Zhuo Xiaoxian stared at the sky with a blank face. Let's not bother about men's business. Mermaid princess smiled. She knew that Qin Feiyang and Madman were going to help Zhuo Tiansheng, but she could not tell Zhuo Xiaoxian about this. With the concealment technique, Qin Feiyang and Madman easily entered Wind Sea City. When Madman saw the wanted poster, the coldness in his eyes grew stronger, as he thought, why does the vice leader want to kill us so badly? Who knows? Qin Feiyang shrugged. Then have you thought about how we're going to leave the city? One had to know that there was an invisible barrier in the sky above the Wind Sea City. If their whereabouts were exposed, they would be like turtles in a jar if they couldn't leave Wind Sea City immediately. You don't know, right? The axe and the sunset divine bow have evolved into pinnacle divine artifacts. Although the city lord is a perfected dominator, a dozen pinnacle divine artifacts should be able to break this barrier. Qin Feiyang thought. No way, they've all evolved? Madman was shocked and hurriedly asked, what about the Blood Demon Tower? I heard that kid say that it has evolved into an intermediate divine artifact. Qin Feiyang transmitted. That's too slow. Madman frowned. Come on, do you think it's an ordinary divine artifact? Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. It was already shocking that it could evolve into an intermediate divine artifact so quickly. How insatiable. Madman smiled embarrassedly. Besides, don't we still have our ancestors? The barrier set up by the city lord can cut off the teleportation altar, but it won't work with the legends of the spacetime law. Plus, we still have the demon ancestors Snowflake and the spacetime gate, so we don't have to worry about escaping. Qin Feiyang smiled. Then it's fine. Madman nodded. While talking, the two entered a secluded alley and changed their appearances before turning off the concealment technique. Purple Smoke Tower. This place was very famous in Wind Sea City. This was because this was a place for people to seek pleasure and make merry. Those who came in and out were mostly from rich families. Here, as long as you had status and wealth, you could get any service. The women here were all very seductive, so the Purple Smoke Tower was greatly sought after by the rich kids of Wind Sea City. When Qin Feiyang and Madman arrived at the Purple Smoke Tower, they saw many seductive women with heavy makeup. This made the two of them feel disgusted. What kind of place is this? Madman frowned. A place to eat, drink, and play. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and led Madman into the Purple Smoke Tower. Young master, as soon as the two of them entered, two women came up to them with seductive smiles. They were very bold and almost jumped into the two's arms. The decorations inside were very luxurious and lewd. The Purple Smoke Tower had 10 floors in total. But no matter if it was the main hall, the corridors, or the private rooms, there were all kinds of men and women hugging and flirting. The woman hugging Madman rubbed Madman's chest while giggling, "Young masters, there are private rooms upstairs. Let's go up and play." Cough cough. Madman and Qin Feiyang looked at each other with uncomfortable expressions. Although they were very experienced, they had never been to a place like this before. Let's go to the main hall. Give us 2 jugs of wine and a few dishes. Qin Feiyang pushed away the woman in his arms. The pungent smell of rouge made him want to vomit. These women weren't even 1/10,000th of the mermaid princess and Zhuo Xiaoxian. No. They weren't even qualified to be compared to them. Boring. When the two women heard this, they immediately snorted coldly, twisted their waists, and went to greet the next guest. "I can't stand this atmosphere." Madman shook his head and glanced at the people upstairs and downstairs. He said with disdain, "There are so many people who like this place. You don't like it, but those playboys do." Qin Feiyang smiled. Under the guidance of a waiter, the two of them sat in a corner. "Please have a seat. The dishes will be served soon." The waiter was very polite. He greeted them with a smile and ran away. Madman heard the seductive laughter and looked at the lewd men and women. He frowned and said, "Why did you bring me here? When I snuck into the city lord's mansion the other day, I met Zhuo Xiaoxian's two brothers. They seem to come here often. So let's wait here." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Soon, the waiter ran over with a few dishes and 2 jugs of wine. He said with a smile, "Please enjoy, young masters." However, after the waiter left, Madman looked at the jug of wine in front of him with a timid expression. "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. Chapter 3058. The madman asked in a low voice, "Do you think there's that spirit-breaking powder in here?" Qin Feiyang looked at the madman in astonishment. Once bitten by a snake, twice shy. As a restaurant, how could they poison their customers' wine? Besides, now that they had changed their appearances, no one knew that they were the people wanted by the city lord's mansion. Therefore, it was almost impossible to poison them. Wait. The evil force has the ability to devour poison. What am I afraid of? The madman patted his head and immediately poured a cup of wine and drank it leisurely. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. He also poured a cup and tasted it. He was completely uninterested. "Waiter, I heard that half a month ago, a woman came here. Why didn't she come out?" Suddenly, a young man at the next table pulled a waiter who was passing by and asked, "Don't worry, she'll come out later." The waiter smiled. "So it's like that." The young man nodded in realization and let go of the waiter. "Brother, who is this Miao Miao?" The young man's desk mate asked curiously. "This Miao Miao, I've only heard of her. I've never seen her before. I heard that she came to the Purple Smoke Tower half a month ago. Because she's too beautiful, she attracted everyone's attention the moment she arrived. Right now, all the rich and powerful disciples in the Wind Sea City are here for her." The young man said with curiosity in his eyes. He didn't know if the rumor was true or false. "They're all here for her? Is it that exaggerated?" The man at the same table was stunned. The young man said, "If you don't believe me, go ask the people at the next table." The man at the same table didn't believe it. He turned to look at a purple-clothed young man and smiled, "Brother, are you here for Miss Miao Miao?" "Of course." The purple-clothed young man held an enchanting woman in his arms and said without hesitation, "Brother, you too." The man at the same table was startled and looked at the young men at the other table. The young men in luxurious clothes nodded, their eyes filled with anticipation. The man at the same table was startled. It was true. "How is it?" The young man looked at him and smiled. "Impressive. Wait a moment, I want to see how beautiful this woman called Miao Miao is." The man at the same table said. Qin Feiyang and Madman also heard the conversation between the two, and a trace of curiosity appeared in their eyes. To be pursued by so many men, her looks must be extraordinary. "Please come in, young masters." At this moment, 2 more people walked in. Qin Feiyang glanced at them casually, but just as he was about to withdraw his gaze, he looked at the 2 again and frowned slightly. "What is it?" Madman was suspicious. "See for yourself." Qin Feiyang muttered. Madman looked up and raised his eyebrows. Both of them had handsome looks and extraordinary temperaments. They were about 20 years old, and one of them was an old acquaintance, Yun Xiang. At this moment, Yun Xiang was wearing a white robe. His thin body looked slender, and he held a folding fan in his hand. He looked very elegant. As soon as he entered the restaurant, more than a dozen beautiful women surrounded him. Because he was indeed handsome. And his temperament was outstanding. At first glance, he looked like a descendant of a big family. Yun Xiang smiled gently and said, "Ladies, I'm sorry, we are just here to drink and chat." "What's the point of just drinking and chatting?" One of the women hugged Yun Xiang's arm and smiled. Yun Xiang was not angry and said with a smile, "Drinking is enough, ladies, please let me go." Another boring person. The group of women immediately pouted and turned to leave. Yun Xiang smiled and looked at his companion next to him and said, "Brother, please." That companion was slightly shorter than Yun Xiang, but he looked better than Yun Xiang. His skin was as soft as a woman's, his facial features were exquisite, his eyes were bright, and his teeth were white. He wore a white brocade robe with a white jade belt around his waist. He also held a folding fan in his hand. Why does he look so familiar? Qin Feiyang looked at that person with a trace of suspicion in his eyes, as if he had seen him before. I also feel that he looks familiar, especially his eyes. Madman was also sizing up that person. Eyes? Qin Feiyang was stunned and looked at that person's eyes. His eyelashes were very long and his dark eyes were without any impurities, like a pure gem. Why did it look like a woman's eyes? And this person's facial features also seemed to be very feminine. Wait. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang looked at that person's throat and found that there was no Adam's apple. Was it really a woman? A man dressed as a woman, interesting. Madman also saw it and pursed his lips with a playful smile. No. I have indeed seen this pair of eyes before. Qin Feiyang muttered as figures flashed through his mind. Finally, the image stopped on a masked woman. It's him. Qin Feiyang narrowed his eyes slightly. Who? Madman was suspicious. The Tower Master of Delight Pavilion. Qin Feiyang transmitted. Madman took a closer look and found that his eyes were exactly the same as that woman's. Yun Xiang actually brought her to the Purple Smoke Pavilion to play? Is he crazy? Madman said to himself, is he here for us again? You're delusional. Qin Feiyang was speechless. This person is unfathomable. We have to be careful. Madman transmitted. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. Was Yun Xiang intentionally getting close to them? Now, he brought that woman all the way from Cloud Sea City to the Purple Smoke Pavilion. What was he planning to do? Yun Xiang and the woman sat in a corner not far away, drinking and chatting. From the beginning until the end, they didn't even glance at Qin Feiyang and Madman. Of course, they wouldn't recognize them even if they saw them. Qin Feiyang and Madman paid attention for a while, but they didn't notice anything strange, so they withdrew their gazes. Time flew by. Noon was about to arrive. More and more people entered the Purple Smoke Pavilion. Almost all of them were men. First young Master Zhua, second young Master Zhua, welcome. Please come in. Suddenly, an enthusiastic shout resounded. Following that, two purple-clothed youths entered the restaurant. First young Master Zhua, second young Master Zhua, you haven't been here for a few days. Immediately, almost all the free women in the restaurant rushed towards the two of them. Huh? Did you miss us? First young Master Zhua laughed loudly. Of course. I miss you every day and night. A group of women showed off their purple clothes and wished for nothing more than to pounce on them. The two of them didn't refuse either. They hugged each other and walked up the stairs. First young Master Zhua. Second young Master Zhua. Madman sized them up and frowned. They wouldn't be little Xian's big brother and second brother, right? I'm not sure. I've never seen them before. Qin Feiyang shook his head and turned to look at a young man at the next table. He asked in a low voice, "Brother, who are they? Why are they so popular? You don't even know them?" The young man looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. Qin Feiyang laughed awkwardly. "Brother, don't laugh at me, this is my first time in Wind Sea City." "No wonder." The young man shook his head and smiled, then said in a low voice, "The two of them are not people we can provoke." "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang was curious. "They are the first young master and second young master of the Zhuo family. And the patriarch of the Zhuo family, who will scare you to death, is the famous Vice-City Lord of our Wind Sea City, Zhuo Tiansheng." The young man said. "So he is the son of the Vice-City Lord. No wonder he is so popular." Qin Feiyang nodded in realization. "Isn't that because of their family background? If not for Zhuo Tiansheng, what would they be?" The young man smiled disdainfully. "That's true." Qin Feiyang nodded and asked in a low voice, "Then what are their characters like?" "Let's not talk about that. How many men who can come to the Purple Smoke Tower are good?" The young man laughed. "That's true." Qin Feiyang nodded with a smile, then retracted his gaze and looked at Madman. The mad scientist glanced at Qin Feiyang, then at the first young master and Zhuo Tiansheng. Killing intent flashed in his eyes. Noon. The Purple Smoke Tower was already full. Ding dong. Along with the sound of a zither, the entire Purple Smoke Tower quieted down and everyone looked up. Qin Feiyang and the mad scientist also looked up suspiciously. But there was nothing. However, just as they were about to withdraw their gazes, multicolored flower petals suddenly fell from the sky. As the petals fell, everyone's eyes became more and more expectant. The people upstairs also walked out and stood in the hallway, looking up. In a blur, a figure appeared in the air. It was an extremely graceful figure, like a fairy among flowers, surrounded by petals. Gradually, the figure became clearer. Finally, a woman appeared in front of everyone. The woman was about 20 years old. She was tall and slender, and she wore a thin five-colored long dress. Her fine black hair danced in the wind. There were colorful butterflies embroidered on the dress. They seemed to be dancing as the dress fluttered. Her skin was like ice and her bones were like jade. Her chest was as tall as a mountain, looking extremely majestic. Her waist was slim and slender. She had an angelic face and a devilish figure. She was simply the dream lover in everyone's eyes. Petals kept falling and the room was filled with the fragrance of flowers. Many people's eyes were glued to her. Some people even couldn't help but drool. Even Qin Feiyang and the mad scientist were stunned. The zither music was melodious. The woman danced among the petals like a flower fairy. Countless people were mesmerized by her. Suddenly, the dancing woman's red lips curved into a smile. She was so charming that the petals around her paled in comparison. At this moment, many people's hearts couldn't help but become restless. A primitive impulse surged into their hearts. Looking back with a charming smile. This sentence couldn't be more appropriate for this woman. What a troublemaker. The mad scientist mumbled. Even he couldn't help but be tempted. However, every time he was tempted, Zhuo Xiaoxian's figure would appear in his mind. He wasn't like other men who hadn't seen a woman for several lifetimes. Qin Feiyang was just stunned. To be honest, this woman's beauty wasn't inferior to the mermaid princess. It could be said that they were on par. However, he only had eyes for the mermaid princess. No matter how beautiful the other women were, they were just pink skeletons. Chapter 3059. Half an hour passed. The sound of the zither slowly fell to the ground, and the woman in colorful clothes slowly stopped dancing. She put down her arm and looked at the possessive gazes around her. There was a trace of undetectable disgust in her eyes. However, she seemed to be used to it and bowed, "Thank you for your support. It's better to meet than to hear. Miss Meow Meow is indeed a national beauty. May I have the honor of inviting Miss Meow Meow to a drink?" A graceful young man stood up and smiled at the woman in colorful clothes. "Thank you for your kindness, young master, but I don't drink. Please forgive me." The woman in colorful clothes looked at the young man apologetically. The young man's expression froze. He felt that he had lost face, but he did not dare to cause trouble here. He smiled embarrassedly and said, it's fine." Finished. He raised his head and drank the wine in the cup in one gulp, then returned to his seat. A few little bastards actually want to have ideas about Miss Meow Meow. They really overestimate themselves. Suddenly, an ear-piercing mocking laughter rang out. The young man immediately flew into a rage out of humiliation and looked towards the person who spoke. However, when he saw the person who spoke, a flattering smile immediately appeared on his face. Because the person who spoke was young Master Zhuo. Among the younger generation of the Wind Sea City, young Master Zhuo could be said to be the #1 person. However, it was not talent or cultivation, but family background. Because the city lord did not have any children, as the eldest son of the vice city lord, young Master Zhuo, he had absolute power and status. No matter how big the noble family was, they did not dare to offend him. Young Master Zhuo also held a wine cup in his hand. He swept his gaze across the crowd with disdain and laughed, "Miss Meow Meow, you won't not give me face, right?" The woman in colorful clothes pondered for a moment, then laughed, "How would I dare not give face to young Master Zhuo?" "Huh!" Young Master Zhuo immediately laughed complacently, walked in front of the woman in colorful clothes, and handed the wine cup to her. The woman in colorful clothes took the wine cup, placed it at the corner of her mouth, and took a sip, then returned the wine cup to young Master Zhuo. "You only drank so little?" Young Master Zhuo frowned. The woman in colorful clothes apologetically, "I really can't handle the alcohol, I hope young master will forgive me." Fine. Young Master Zhuo smiled. At this moment, second young Master Zhuo also walked over with a wine cup, and laughed, "Miss Meow Meow, my big brother's face, then what about my face?" As he spoke, he placed the wine cup in front of the multicolor-robed woman. The multicolor-robed woman smiled faintly and took a sip of her wine. "Huh!" Second young Master Zhuo couldn't help but laugh out loud. Then, the two brothers looked at each other and a sinister smile flashed across their eyes. "Miss Meow Meow's dance is really mesmerizing. Why don't you come to our room and dance for us alone?" Zhuo first young master smiled as he looked at the multicolor-clothed woman. "Young masters, I'm really sorry. I have something to do today. Let's do it another day." The multicolor-clothed woman tactfully refused. "What could be more important than us?" Young Master Zhuo's gaze turned slightly cold. The multicolor-clothed woman said, "I really have something to do. I hope the two of you can be magnanimous." "Huh, I never thought that in this Wind Sea City, there would actually be someone who dared to refuse the invitation of us brothers." The two of them laughed, but their eyes were cold. "Please forgive me, young masters." The multicolor-clothed woman bowed before turning around and leaving. "Did this young master allow you to leave?" First young Master Zhuo stopped laughing as he looked at the back of the multicolored-clothed woman and said, "I'm sorry, let's talk another day." The multicolor-clothed woman was already quite polite. However, the Zhuo brothers became more and more arrogant. The second young master of the Zhuo family took a step forward and grabbed the hand of the multicolor-clothed woman. His heart instantly skipped a beat. "Such soft skin, second young master, please respect yourself. The multicolor-clothed woman hurriedly pulled her hand out. Respect myself? Huh, she actually told this young master to respect himself. Don't you think that's funny? The second young master of the Zhuo family laughed out loud as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. The other people in the restaurant also roared with laughter. Entering a place like the Purple Smoke House and telling others to respect themselves, wasn't this a bitch setting up a monument? The multicolor-clothed woman ignored the two of them and turned around to leave. The second young master of the Zhuo family once again grabbed her arm and said in a deep voice, "You have to understand that this is Wind Sea City. If you don't give us face, you will be cutting off your own path of retreat." "I'm sorry." The multicolor-clothed woman apologized and forcefully pulled her arm back. However, the second young master of the Zhuo family held on tightly and refused to let go. His expression became more and more gloomy. "Second young master, please let go." The multicolor-clothed woman smiled. "You motherfucker, I gave you face, didn't I?" The second young master of the Zhuo family was instantly enraged and slapped the multicolor-clothed woman's face. But at this moment, Madman took a step forward and stood in front of the multicolor-clothed woman. He looked at the second young master of the Zhuo family and said with a smile, "Young Master Zhuo, this isn't good." The second young master of the Zhuo family was stunned and immediately raised his eyebrows. "Who are you? How dare you interfere with my business?" The others also looked at Madman in astonishment. He actually dared to interfere with the Zhuo brothers' business. He must have eaten a leopard's guts. The multicolor-clothed woman was also stunned. She hurriedly looked at Madman and said, "Young master, this has nothing to do with you. Please don't." But before the multicolor-clothed woman could finish speaking, Madman waved his hand and looked at the Zhuo brothers. The eldest young master of the Zhuo family also had a gloomy expression. "I heard that your sister Zhuo Xiaoxian was taken away and was personally ordered by your father to be wanted. Don't you care about her? Do you only care about having fun here?" Madman frowned. "Care? This is her own shamelessness. She wants to run away with others. Even if she dies, she deserves it." The second young master of the Zhuo family sneered. "You really can't wait for her to die." Madman shook his head. "She's just a shameless woman. It's best if she dies, lest she implicates our entire Zhuo family." The second young master of the Zhuo family snorted. "Shameless," Madman muttered and turned to look at the eldest young master of the Zhuo family. He asked, "You think so too?" "Of course. Although she's our biological sister, everything she did is a disgrace to our Zhuo family. If she's in front of me now, I'll even end her myself." The eldest young master of the Zhuo family spoke with a ruthless coldness. "Huh!" Madman heard this and raised his head to laugh. Seeing this, the eldest young master of the Zhuo family's eyes flashed with killing intent as he slapped at Madman. He thought that Madman was unprepared and could succeed. But before he could get close, Madman suddenly raised his other arm and grabbed his wrist. The eldest young master of the Zhuo family was shocked. "Do you know? If you care about Xiaoxian a little, even if it's just a little, I won't kill you. But from you, I can only feel killing intent. I really pity Xiaoxian now. How could she be born in such a family? How could she have a family like you? It's hard to imagine, how did she survive all these years?" Madman's eyes were filled with killing intent. "You called her Xiaoxian? Who are you?" The two were shocked. "Hee, I'm someone you can only look up to forever." Madman smiled proudly as his divine power roared out. The two's bodies immediately shattered in the void. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere, dyeing the surroundings red. Everyone in the restaurant was dumbfounded. He actually killed the Zhuo family's brothers? At the same time, Yun Xiang and the woman looked at each other before looking at Madman. Their eyes were shining. Boom! Madman took a step forward as his terrifying killing intent surged out. That killing intent turned into a torrent and rushed towards Yun Xiang. It's really you. Yun Xiang also stood up. His aura roared as it rushed towards Madman's killing intent. Along with a loud explosion, the entire purple smoke tower collapsed. The people in the restaurant all fled with ashen-faced faces. Outside, the people on the street were also shocked. What happened? Quickly informed the city lord mansion. Someone killed the Zhuo family's first and second young masters. Someone shouted. What? Someone actually dared to kill them? Did he eat a leopard's guts? Immediately, the place was in an uproar. Swoosh! At the same time, two figures soared into the sky. It was Madman and Yun Xiang. Qin Feiyang, the house master of Joyous Sky Tower, and the woman in colorful clothes also soared into the sky and stood not far away. Brother Mo, there's no need to be like this. Yun Xiang furrowed his brows. Clang! Madman didn't say anything. He waved his hand and a golden light surged. A golden halberd appeared in his hand. A heaven-defying divine art. Yun Xiang's pupils suddenly shrank. He immediately looked at the house master of Joyous Sky Tower and shouted, "Let's go!" Whoosh! The two immediately turned around and flew away. Qin Feiyang glanced at the house master of Joyous Sky Tower. He used the walk formula and instantly appeared in front of Yun Xiang. He said indifferently, "Since we've met, let's end this. Brother Qin, it's really not what you think. We've never even met before. Why would I approach you?" Yun Xiang said angrily. Clang! Qin Feiyang also remained silent. Along with a monstrous killing intent, a blood-colored sword appeared. This is, Yun Xiang's expression changed. It was also a heaven-defying divine art. What two monsters! He didn't hesitate to take out the dagger. Qin Feiyang and Madman had seen this dagger in Joyous Sky Tower before. It was also a heaven-defying divine artifact. The house master of Joyous Sky Tower also guessed the identity of Qin Feiyang and Madman. He hurriedly landed in front of Yun Xiang and said, "Qin Dage, Brother Mo, this is really a misunderstanding. This has nothing to do with you." Scram! Madman shouted. The house master of Joyous Sky Tower said anxiously, "He really has no ill intentions. Why don't you believe him?" "All right. If he really has no problems, then let us read his memory," Qin Feiyang said. "Read his memory?" Yun Xiang frowned. "That's right. I have a secret technique that can read memories. If you don't have any ulterior motives, then let me see your memory. If you really have no problems, I'll apologize to you," Qin Feiyang said. "Do you think that's possible? Go and ask everyone. Who doesn't have any secrets?" Yun Xiang raised his eyebrows. "Then I'm sorry." Qin Feiyang took a step forward and slashed out with his sword. Madman also wielded his Fangtian halberd and attacked Yun Xiang from behind. Yun Xiang waved his hand. The power of law emerged and a space crack appeared. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. The blood-colored sword turned in the air and directly blasted into the space crack. The space-time transmission channel collapsed immediately. Madman charged forward at this moment. Yun Xiang turned around and faced the halberd with the dagger. Clang! A wave of destructive energy instantly erupted from this place. Run! The city below suddenly began to collapse, and people fled in fear. Not good, this will affect many people. Qin Feiyang's face changed. Chapter 3060. Boom! But at the same time, A terrifying aura erupted from the city lord's mansion. It was Zhuo Tiancheng's aura. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice, "Senior brother Madman, we have reached our goal. Let's go." Madman glanced at Yun Xiang, then looked up at Zhuo Tiancheng and sneered, "Zhuo, this is just the beginning. If you don't withdraw the arrest warrant for Zhuo Xiaoxian, I will make you die without descendants." At the same time, Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and Qin Batian appeared. Qin Batian immediately opened a space-time teleportation channel, and then rushed in with Qin Feiyang and Madman without looking back. What? There are actually people around them who can control the space-time laws. Yun Xiang was shocked. The multicolor-clothed woman looked at the space-time teleportation channel, and an imperceptible light flashed in her eyes. Swish! Just as Qin Feiyang and the other two left, Zhuo Tiancheng arrived in the void. With a wave of his hand, the battle fluctuations that surged towards the city below immediately dissipated. What's going on? Immediately after, he looked at Yun Xiang. It's not my fault. I came to the Purple Smokehouse to drink, but I bumped into Qin Feiyang and Madman Mo. They attacked us without saying anything. There are many people here who can testify. Yun Xiang hurriedly explained. Qin Feiyang, Madman Mo. Zhuo Tiancheng was shocked. Didn't he tell them to never come back? Why did they come back? And even caused such a big commotion. They are actually Qin Feiyang and Madman Mo. They are too bold. They are wanted, and they still dare to come to Wine Sea City? The people in the city below were also shocked. Where are Qin Feiyang and the others? At this time, the burly man, Elder Yu, and the city lord also arrived. The one who spoke was the burly man. There. Yun Xiang pointed at the space-time teleportation channel that had already closed. Bastard! This is a blatant provocation to us. The burly man said angrily. "Milord, someone just reported that the first young master and second young master were killed." A guard hurriedly ran over and said. What? Zhuo Tiancheng was shocked. The burly man, the city lord, and Elder Yu all stared blankly at the guard. They all heard the commotion and came over, so they didn't know about it yet. Zhuo Tiancheng came back to his senses. Looking at the woman in colorful clothes, he shouted, "Is this true?" "My lord, it's true." The multicolor-clothed woman replied respectfully. Bastard, bastard, Zhuo Tiancheng was furious. This time, he wasn't acting. He was really angry. Why is this happening? Elder Yu and the mayor looked at each other, a trace of confusion in their eyes. Just now, I think I heard them say that if you don't remove the arrest warrant for Zhuo Xiaoxian, they will make you die without descendants. I don't think they're joking. You have to be careful. The burly man looked at Zhuo Tiancheng and sighed. Thank you for your concern, my lord. But there's no way I'll remove this arrest warrant. I'd like to see how they're going to make me die without descendants. Zhuo Tiancheng smiled coldly. Sigh. I didn't expect that our good intentions to help him and Xiaoxian end up like this. Elder Yu sighed. Yeah. This little lunatic is really a lunatic in name. Although he cares about Xiaoxian, he can't be so extreme. The mayor was also a little annoyed. They thought that Qin Feiyang and the lunatic were doing this to fight for Zhuo Xiaoxian. But that wasn't the case. Qin Feiyang and the lunatic's goal was to deepen this hatred. In this way, the Vice Alliance leader might let Zhuo Tiancheng go. In other words, they were simply protecting Zhuo Tiancheng. As for the first young master and second young master of the Zhuo family, it didn't matter to them. They didn't have good intentions toward Zhuo Xiaoxian anyway. Next, the mayor interrogated Yun Xiang, the house master of the Tianyue Tower, and the multicolor-clothed woman, and didn't make things difficult for them. Because everyone saw that Yun Xiang and the lunatic were both victims. As for the multicolor-clothed woman, although she had some conflicts with the first young master, they were the ones at fault. In front of so many people, even if Shuo Tiansheng wanted to take revenge, the mayor wouldn't allow it. As the mayor and the others left, the crowd became excited. They all admired Qin Feiyang and the lunatic's courage. Yun Xiang took a deep breath, looked at the multicolor-clothed woman, and said with a smile, "Miss Miao Miao, what do you plan to do next?" Looking at the ruins of the purple smoke tower, the multicolor-clothed woman sighed, "I can only leave." "Yes, you have to leave. After all, the two young masters of the Zhuo family had some conflicts with you before they died. With Shuo Tiansheng's ruthless personality, he'll come for you sooner or later." Yun Xiang transmitted his voice. "Yeah." The multicolor-clothed woman nodded. "Then why don't we do this?" The Delight Pavilion's master gazed at the multicolor-clothed woman and smiled, "Big sister, why don't you come with us to Ocean of Cloud City?" Ocean of Cloud City? The multicolor-clothed woman was stunned. "Yes. I won't hide it from you. I've opened a restaurant in Ocean of Cloud City as well, and it's called the Delight Pavilion. If you're willing, then we can run it together and allow the Delight Pavilion to spread throughout the entire eastern continent." The Delight Pavilion's master smiled. Yun Xiang was slightly stunned, and then he gazed at the woman and said, "I never noticed that you're quite ambitious. But it's a good idea. One of you plays the zither like the sounds of nature while the other dances like a celestial fairy. If you two work together, then it'll be a perfect combination." "That's exactly what I'm thinking." The Delight Pavilion's master nodded, and then he gazed at the multicolor-clothed woman and smiled, "Big sister, what do you think?" "That." The multicolor-clothed woman hesitated slightly. "It's fate that brought us together." Yun Xiang grinned. The multicolor-clothed woman gazed at their sincerity and nodded, "All right, then please take care of me in the future." "Take care of each other. Take care of each other." Yun Xiang smiled, and then he opened a spatial passageway and left with them. He really has grasped the laws of space. The city governor's estate. The city governor stood in the air above the hall, and his eyes flickered brightly as he watched Yun Xiang's group leave. In any case, none of them are simple. Elder Yu shook his head. "Yes." The city governor nodded, and then he glanced at Zhuo Tiansheng who had a gloomy expression on his face and couldn't help but shake his head. "City governor, have you noticed that our eastern continent has become bustling since Qin Feiyang and Madman Mo appeared? Just like Yun Xiang. He's definitely a monstrous genius since he's grasped the laws of space, but we've never heard of him. Besides that, Miao Miao suddenly appeared in our city half a month ago. It wouldn't be a big deal if she was just an ordinary woman. But such an outstanding beauty should be sought after no matter where she goes. Why does she have to stay in a place like the Violet Mist Pavilion? To be honest, I don't see the bearing of a prostitute on her." Elder Yu frowned as he gazed at the city governor. "I noticed that as well. And that person by Yun Xiang's side is clearly a woman dressed as a man." The city governor said. "A woman dressed as a man?" Elder Yu was slightly stunned, and then he thought carefully for a moment before slapping his head. "It's her, the pavilion master of Delight Pavilion." "Really?" The city governor was surprised. "It can't be wrong. It's her. Even though she always wore a veil, I still remember the look in her eyes. But besides her appearance, she doesn't seem to have anything outstanding about her." Elder Yu frowned. "Wrong. She doesn't seem to be that simple." The city governor shook his head. "It can't be." Elder Yu was surprised. "I hope it's just a misconception." As soon as he finished speaking, the city governor looked towards the hall below. A short while later, the burly man walked out. The city governor pulled Zhuo Tiansheng, and the three of them flew down and landed in front of the burly man. The burly man glanced at the city governor and elder Yu, then looked at Zhuo Tiansheng with a smile. Let me tell you a piece of good news. Zhuo Tiansheng raised his head and looked at the burly man suspiciously. I've just reported what happened earlier to Lord Vice Alliance leader. The deputy leader said that since they killed your 2 sons, it means that you really have nothing to do with this matter, and he won't pursue your mistakes in the future. The burly man said. Really? Zhuo Tiansheng was stunned. Yes. The burly man nodded. Thank you, messenger, for speaking up for me in front of the deputy leader. Zhuo Tiansheng was overjoyed, and a huge rock in his heart was finally lifted. Don't be happy too early. The deputy leader ordered us to kill these 2 people. The burly man said. We will. Zhuo Tiansheng nodded. All right then, you guys continue to investigate. After the burly man finished speaking, he turned around and returned to the hall. When the door was closed, the city governor looked at Zhuo Tiansheng and said with a smile, it seems that the death of your 2 sons is also rewarded. Yes. Zhuo Tiansheng nodded. Wait, suddenly. Elder Yu waved his hand, pondered for a moment, and sent a sound transmission. Do you think that Qin Feiyang and Little Madman did this to help us? The 2 of them were stunned. That's impossible. Because they don't know our situation at all. Zhuo Tiansheng came back to his senses and shook his head. That's true. Elder Yu nodded. This confirms the saying, an unintentional willow will grow. The city governor laughed secretly. But they are my sons after all. If they are useless, their deaths are not to be regretted. Although they are a bit foppish, they are still good to their family. Zhuo Tiansheng sighed. My condolences. The city governor patted him on the shoulder with a comforting expression. At the same time, in a corner of the eastern continent, in a hall, the deputy leader sat on a stone chair, his eyes flickering with a dark light to the extreme. Grandfather, what's so annoying? Suddenly, a young man in blood-red clothes walked in. His hair was also blood-red, and there was a shocking murderous aura all over his body. Sigh. The deputy leader shook his head and sighed, asking, why are you back? I've already killed all the beasts there. What's the point of me staying there? The young man in blood-red clothes laughed and then asked, Grandfather, what happened? There is indeed a troublesome matter. The deputy leader nodded and briefly explained the situation of Qin Feiyang and Madman. That's it? The young man in blood-red clothes was stunned. Yes. The deputy leader nodded. Didn't you just kill a small city governor? Is there a need to deal with them like this? The young man in blood-red clothes shook his head speechlessly. The deputy leader said, you don't understand. These 2 must die. Why? The young man in blood-red clothes was curious. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. The deputy leader glared at him. The young man in blood-red clothes pursed his lips, his eyes flickered for a while, and said, Grandfather, if you want him to die, then leave this matter to me. You? The deputy leader looked at the young man in shock. Why? You don't have confidence in me? The young man in blood-red clothes smiled. That's not it. The deputy leader shook his head and said, I'm just thinking, isn't it a bit of a waste to let you go? Anyway, I'm bored. Besides, after hearing what you said, I feel that this Qin Feiyang and Madman Mo are quite powerful. I really want to meet them. The young man in blood-red clothes smiled. Then, the deputy leader pondered for a moment and nodded, all right then. But remember, don't go too crazy and hurt innocent people. After all, our rogue cultivator alliance still needs the support of those ants. Got it. Then I'll be leaving. The young man in white waved his hand, opened a legendary altar, and quickly left. Got it? I hope so. The deputy leader shook his head. He knew his grandson too well. Once he started playing, he wouldn't care about anything. Chapter 3061. Black Tortoise World. Qin Feiyang and Madman sat opposite each other. A pot of tea was boiling on the table in front of them, and the fragrance of tea filled the air. Both of them had already recovered their true appearances. Qin Batian had also returned and continued to comprehend the power of laws. Qin Feiyang held the teacup and sniffed it. He immediately felt refreshed and said with a smile, "I hope this will work." Madman nodded and glanced at Qin Feiyang. He frowned and said, "Why do you like drinking tea so much? Tea can nourish the body and the heart. Haven't you noticed that when drinking tea, time passes very slowly, the atmosphere is very relaxed, and the heart is also very calm?" Qin Feiyang smiled. "There's no need to be so particular." Madman shook his head. He was the kind of person who drank both wine and tea. If he didn't understand, he would understand a little. If he understood, he wouldn't understand too much. Taking a sip of the teacup, Madman pondered and said, "To cut the grass, we have to remove the roots. The root of this matter is actually the Vice Alliance leader. I really don't understand why this old thing wants to kill us." Madman raised his head and looked at Qin Feiyang with a frown. "I've also thought about this problem. If you say it's because of Wang Hui's death, I won't believe it even if you beat me to death. But other than that, we have no grudges with the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. We haven't even come into contact with this Vice Alliance leader, let alone any grudges. And this Vice Alliance leader seems to be especially concerned about us. Let's talk about our origins. Not many people know about our origins. Apart from the Demon Palace, only the Blood Palace knows. The Demon Palace and the Rogue Cultivator Alliance are enemies, so it's impossible for them to tell the Rogue Cultivator Alliance." Then, only, Qin Feiyang analyzed step by step. When he reached this point, even he was shocked. Apart from the Demon Palace, only the Blood Palace was left. "You mean this person is related to the Blood Palace?" Madman was also shocked. "Most likely." Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and said solemnly. "But that's not right. The sea beasts of the sky cloud sea seem to know of our existence. Could it be that they told us?" Madman frowned. "No." Qin Feiyang shook his head decisively. "Why?" Madman had a suspicious expression. If it was really a sea beast from the heavenly cloud sea, then everyone in the eastern continent should know about it. But look, no matter if it's Eastern Mountain City, Tianfeng City, or this Wind Sea City, no one knows us. Even the demonic towers of the major cities are unfamiliar with us." Qin Feiyang said. "That makes sense." Madman nodded. "But then again, I really find it strange. We caused such a huge commotion in the heavenly cloud sea. How come no one knows about it? I feel like someone is deliberately blocking the news." Qin Feiyang mumbled. Madman was slightly taken aback and quickly nodded. "Now that you mention it, it really is a bit strange." Qin Feiyang asked, "Why don't we go to the heavenly cloud sea and take a look?" "No, no, no. What if the Blood Hall's people are still lurking in the sea of heavenly clouds? Wouldn't we be walking right into their trap?" Madman shook his head. "We're just asking around the edge of the sea, not going deep. Let's talk about it later. This is the Eastern Continent, the Blood Hall wouldn't dare to act brazenly." Qin Feiyang said. "If that's the case," Madman pondered for a while and nodded. "All right, let's go take a look." The two drank the tea in their cups and stood up. "You guys are going out again?" At this time, Mermaid Princess and Zhuo Xiaoxian walked out from the backyard with a few delicious dishes. "You guys eat, don't worry about us." The two smiled slightly and left the Black Tortoise world. They activated the teleportation altar and rushed towards the heavenly cloud sea. Not long after. After activating hundreds of teleportation altars, the two finally landed on the coast of the heavenly cloud sea. Above the sea, the wind howled and the waves rolled. Qin Feiyang and Madman looked at each other and released their divine sense at the same time, rolling in all directions. The sea ahead and the mountain behind only had sea beasts and fierce beasts. The crisis could be resolved immediately. Madman rushed into the sea. Not long after, he came out with a half-step imperishable realm sea beast. "What are you doing?" The sea beast was panicking. "You seem to know us?" Qin Feiyang looked at it suspiciously. The sea beast said in horror, "Go and ask, who in the heavenly cloud sea doesn't know you guys now? Are we that famous?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. "Damn." The sea beast immediately realized that something was wrong and actually let it slip in a moment of panic. Qin Feiyang and Madman looked at each other, their eyes shining. Looking at the sea beast's expression, they knew that something was wrong. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Don't be nervous, we won't hurt you. We just want to know, why do you all know us?" "I can't say." The sea beast shook its head. "Why?" Qin Feiyang was curious. The sea beast only shook its head and didn't say anything. Madman raised his eyebrows, and a trace of killing intent emerged. The sea beast roared, "Don't make things difficult for me, okay? I don't know anything." Qin Feiyang stopped Madman and looked at the sea beast with a smile, "Then let's change the topic. Since the heavenly cloud sea knows of our existence, why don't the creatures of the eastern continent know?" "I don't know." The sea beast still shook its head. Madman said angrily, Are you unhappy if I don't beat you up?" "Even if you beat me up, I don't know." The sea beast shook its head. The corner of Madman's mouth twitched. Qin Feiyang looked at the sea beast, his eyes flickering. Suddenly, he looked up at the sea in front of him, his eyes filled with an inexplicable light. "I'll ask you one last time, are you going to tell me or not? If you don't, we will forcibly read your memories." Madman glared at the sea beast. But at this time, Qin Feiyang retracted his gaze and said with a smile, "Senior brother, let it go." Madman looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. "I think I already know what's going on," Qin Feiyang whispered. Madman was stunned for a moment and let go of the sea beast. The sea beast immediately jumped into the sea and disappeared. "What's going on?" Madman looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. "Beast God." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. "Beast God?" Madman was stunned. "Think about it carefully. Who has the ability to make all the sea beasts in the heavenly cloud sea keep their mouths shut?" Qin Feiyang asked. Madman narrowed his eyes and said, "It must be the beast god of the heavenly cloud sea." "That's right. If I'm not wrong, the person who repeatedly stopped me from opening the spacetime gate in the heavenly cloud sea should also be him," Qin Feiyang said. "This is very contradictory. It ordered the news to be sealed, this should be considered to be helping us. And stopping you from opening the spacetime gate is harming us. What does it want to do?" Madman raised his eyebrows. "Maybe in its eyes, this is just a fun game. It wants to torment us and find some fun." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "Find some fun? It's courting death." A row of black lines appeared on Madman's forehead. Qin Feiyang's expression changed as he hurriedly said, "Can you not talk nonsense? What if it hears us?" "Hear us? Do you really think it's a god?" Madman rolled his eyes. But before he finished, a divine light descended from the sky and smashed towards Madman. "Damn!" Madman turned around and ran. Boom! The divine light instantly descended like a bolt of lightning, blasting Madman's body. His hair instantly exploded and his body was charred black. This scene was too sudden, and Qin Feiyang was also caught off guard. But fortunately, he wasn't affected. The divine light was like a flash in the pan, disappearing in an instant. Qin Feiyang looked at the sky, then turned around and walked to Madman with a gloating expression. He sniffed Madman's body and nodded, charred on the outside and tender on the inside, quite fragrant. After saying that, he activated an altar. The corner of Madman's mouth twitched. He raised his head and looked at the sky with lingering fear, then quickly jumped onto the altar. "Little Madman, what's wrong with you?" When the two returned to the vicinity of Wind Sea City and entered the Black Tortoise realm, Xiaofan immediately looked at Madman's appearance in surprise. "I was careless with my words and offended the heavens, so I was struck by lightning." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "Really?" Xiaofan was surprised. "Yes." Qin Feiyang nodded. "Little Madman, why don't you behave yourself? Is the heavens something you can offend? Are you all right?" Xiaofan looked concerned. "Are you a pig? You even believe his nonsense?" Madman glanced at Xiaofan speechlessly, then cursed out loud, "That bastard, sooner or later, I'm going to strike him with a thunderbolt. Then you have to work hard." Qin Feiyang laughed. "You are laughing at me." Madman glared at Qin Feiyang, then turned around and went home to wash up. The next day, in the sky above Wind Sea City, a young man in blood-red clothes appeared and looked at the city below, his eyes full of contempt. Then, he took a step forward, but he encountered the barrier set up by the city lord. Looking at the barrier, the young man in blood-red clothes was stunned. "Who is it? How dare you barge into Wind Sea City?" A few guards rushed into the sky and stared at the young man in blood-red clothes with murderous intent. "Ask your city lord to come out and see me." The young man in blood-red clothes spoke, and his attitude immediately angered the guards. "Who is this person? He seems to be very impressive." The people in the city below looked up at the young man in blood-red clothes, their eyes full of suspicion. Seeing that the guards were indifferent, the young man in blood-red clothes shouted with murderous intent in his eyes, "Xing-san, come out." Whoosh! Not long after, the burly man appeared and stood above the city lord's mansion, looking at the young man in blood-red clothes. Immediately, his expression changed, and he hurriedly shouted at the guards, "Don't be rude." Then, he rushed toward the young man in blood-red clothes like lightning. Zhuo Tiansheng, the city lord, and Elder Yu also appeared. Looking at the young man in blood-red clothes, a trace of suspicion flashed in their eyes, and they quickly flew over. "Open the barrier quickly." The burly man looked at the city lord and said. The city lord waved his hand, and the barrier opened. The young man in blood-red clothes entered the barrier, and without saying anything, he directly rushed in front of the guards. "Sir, please spare our lives." The guards' expressions changed, and they hurriedly knelt in the void and begged. Even the messenger was so respectful, he must have a powerful background. "Do you know who I am? How dare you show killing intent to me?" The young man in blood-red clothes smiled proudly and slapped at them. "Please have mercy." The city lord hurriedly shouted. However, the young man in blood-red clothes turned a deaf ear to him, and a powerful aura burst out. It was the level 1 immortal realm. The guards were only at the half-step immortal realm, and they were directly smashed into pieces by the young man in blood-red clothes. Chapter 3062. The city lord looked at the young man in red with a gloomy expression. "They just talked back to you. Do you have to be so ruthless?" The young man in red turned around and looked at the city lord. The burly man's expression changed. He hurriedly looked at the city lord and scolded, "Don't be rude. Apologize to the young master." "Apologize?" The city lord frowned. "You've got guts." The young man in red walked toward the city lord step by step with an insufferably arrogant smile on his face. "Please calm down, young master." The burly man saw that the situation wasn't good. He hurriedly stood in front of the city lord and explained, "He's the city lord of Wind Sea City. Young master, please be merciful." The young man in red was stunned. He looked at the city lord and smiled, "So you're that trash city lord." The city lord was furious. Zhuo Tiansheng and Elder Yu were also furious. He actually dared to insult the city lord in public? The young man in red glanced at the city lord, then at Elder Yu and Zhuo Tiansheng. He said lightly, "Third Xing, who are they?" "Young master, his name is Zhuo Tiansheng. He's the vice city lord of Wind Sea City. This is Elder Yu. He's a guest of the city lord's mansion." Third Xing introduced them one by one. The young man in red looked at Zhuo Tiansheng and Elder Yu and said contemptuously, "You're trash too." The two heard and clenched their fists. "You don't agree? It's been more than 50 years, and you can't even catch two half-step undying ants. If you're not trash, then what are you? In my opinion, calling you trash is a bit of a compliment." The young man in red didn't care about the three's face at all. He humiliated them without restraint. The city lord was so angry that he laughed and nodded, all right. If we're trash, then may I ask who you are?" "Young master. I'm afraid I'll scare you to death if I tell you." The young man in red said proudly. The city lord said, "Then tell us and see if you'll scare us to death. Can you stop talking?" Third Xing was extremely anxious. The young man in red said, "Third Xing, tell them." Third Xing sighed secretly. He stood beside the young man in red and looked at the city lord and the other three and said, "The one standing in front of you is the grandson of the vice city lord." "What?" The three's eyes. They had heard that the Vice Alliance leader had a grandson. Furthermore, his talent was monstrous. However, because he had always been by the Vice Alliance master's side and had never appeared in front of others, he did not know what he looked like. Who would have thought that it would be the person in front of him? "How is it? Did I scare you?" The blood-red clothed young man looked at the three of them proudly. "Sorry, we were blind. Please forgive us, young master." The three of them quickly lowered their heads and said. The blood-red clothed young man said, "So, do you admit that you're trash now?" When the three of them heard this, their eyes immediately filled with anger. Even if he was the grandson of the Vice Alliance leader, he shouldn't humiliate them in public like this. "I'm asking you a question. Are you all trash?" The red-clothed young man shouted. "Yes." The city lord gritted his teeth and endured the humiliation in his heart as he nodded. "That's more like it." The blood-red-clothed young man smiled proudly and looked at Third Xing. "This time, I came here for Qin Feiyang and Madman Mo." Third Xing was shocked and hurriedly said, "Young master, these two are not good people." "I know. Not only did they kidnap some trash's daughter, but they also killed some trash's two sons. But so what? In front of me, they're just trash." The blood-red-clothed young man smiled coldly. Zhuo Tiansheng lowered his head and his eyes were filled with anger. The person he was talking about was obviously him. He was the Vice Alliance leader of Wind Sea City. How could he establish his authority in Wind Sea City if he kept calling them trash? Was this how the grandson of the Vice Alliance leader was raised? Even so, he could only endure it. Because the identity of the Vice Alliance leader's grandson was enough to suffocate him. "Young master, let's go to the city lord mansion first." Third Xing also felt the anger in the city lord and the other two. He quickly looked at the blood-red-clothed young man and smiled obsequiously. The blood-red-clothed young man nodded and looked at the city lord and the other two. I'll give you a mission. Young master, please give us your orders. The city lord lowered his head and said. Send them a letter of challenge. Tell them that I'll be waiting for them in Wind Sea City. If they're still men, come to Wind Sea City and fight with me. The blood-red-clothed young man's eyes flashed. Them? The city lord was stunned. Not only are you trash, but you're also an idiot. Of course, they're Qin Fei Young and Madman Mo. The blood-red-clothed young man mocked and walked towards the city lord mansion without looking back. Hurry up and make the arrangements. Third Xing instructed and quickly chased after the blood-red-clothed young man. Damn, the grandson of the Vice Alliance leader is indeed arrogant. Yeah. He just came and already sent a letter of challenge to Qin Fei Young and Madman Mo. That attitude of not putting them in his eyes at all. The people below were discussing. High up in the sky, the city lord and the other two were gloomy. What the hell? Isn't he just relying on the Vice Alliance leader's support? He has no manners at all. He's even worse than those playboys in Wind Sea City. Elder Yu cursed angrily. Calm down. The city lord sighed secretly. My lord, how can I calm down like this? Old Zhua and I can forget about it, but you're the city lord of Wind Sea City, and a supreme existence at the perfect dominator realm. In the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, you're a senior figure. He's just a junior. What right does he have to be so domineering in front of you? Even if Qin Fei Young saw you, he would know to respectfully call you senior. Elder Yu was indignant. Enough. Enough. Who asked him to be the grandson of the Vice Alliance leader? And since he was young, the Vice Alliance leader has kept him by his side and carefully protected him. It can be seen how much the Vice Alliance leader cares about him. We can't afford to offend such a person. The city lord shook his head and sighed. It's one thing to not offend him, but at least he should know some manners. Elder Yu is right. With his manners, he's even worse than those playboys in Wind Sea City. Zhuo Tiansheng snorted coldly. You're still angry? As the city lord, I can tolerate it. Can't you? Alright, hurry up and arrange it. I want to see what ability the person that the Vice Alliance leader has kept by his side and personally nurtured personally has. The city lord thought to himself. Ability? Zhuo Tiansheng snorted disdainfully and sent a sound transmission. I think he only has the ability to be arrogant and despotic. Now, I hope that Qin Fei Young and Little Madman can appear and kill him directly. The city lord was shocked and immediately glared at Zhuo Tiansheng. He thought to himself, don't say such things again in the future. Zhuo Tiansheng pursed his lips and said, all right, we'll arrange it. Elder Yu, let's go. Elder Yu nodded. The two of them swooped down and disappeared like lightning. The city lord retracted his gaze and looked at the city lord mansion with a cold light in his eyes. Under the arrangement of Zhuo Tiansheng and Elder Yu, the blood-red-clothed youth's challenge quickly spread throughout Wind Sea City. In just a few days, all the cities in the eastern continent were discussing this matter. What? The grandson of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance's Vice Alliance leader actually personally issued a challenge? Who are Qin Fei Young and Madman Mo? Why haven't I heard of them before? Although Qin Fei Young and Madman Mo had caused a lot of trouble during this period of time, and they were wanted in all the major cities of the eastern continent, everyone was just curious at most. But now, when the blood-red-clothed youth issued a challenge, the two of them instantly became famous. Because it was different. How could the grandson of the Vice Alliance leader personally issue a challenge? How could they be ordinary people? So everyone started to pay special attention to Qin Fei Young and Madman Mo. What? The grandson of the Vice Alliance leader personally came to Wind Sea City and issued a challenge to Qin Fei Young and Madman Mo? Cloud Sea City. Heavenly Delight Pavilion. Yun Xiang, the woman in a colorful dress, and the Tower Master of Heavenly Delight Pavilion looked at the staff before them with shock. Yes. Now, it's not just Heavenly Delight Pavilion. The entire Eastern continent is talking about it. The staff nodded. Yun Xiang pondered for a moment and waved to the staff, "You go do your thing." Yes. The staff turned and left. Yun Xiang waved his hand and closed the door. He looked at the woman in a colorful dress and smiled bitterly. These two really know how to cause trouble. The woman in a colorful dress and the Tower Master of Heavenly Delight Pavilion shook their heads helplessly. They actually alarmed the grandson of the Vice Alliance leader. The Tower Master of Heavenly Delight Pavilion asked, "Brother Yun, do you know the grandson of the Vice Alliance leader?" "No. But I've heard of him. It's said that he's a very monstrous person. The Vice Alliance leader has been keeping him by his side to nurture him, but he also seems to be an extremely ruthless person," Yun Xiang said. The Tower Master of Heavenly Delight Pavilion said worriedly, "This time, Qin Dage and Madman Mo might be at a disadvantage. I don't know if they will be at a disadvantage, but I'm sure that if they accept the challenge, the battle will be very exciting. Why don't we go to Wine Sea City and take a look now?" Yun Xiang suggested. Now? Qin Dage and Madman Mo haven't accepted the challenge yet, right? The Tower Master of Heavenly Delight Pavilion was stunned. "You don't understand this, do you? The challenge of the Vice Alliance leader's grandson is a rare occurrence. Once this news is out, I believe that many people will be like us and go to Wind Sea City to take a look. If we're late, I'm afraid we won't even be able to enter the city," Yun Xiang said with a smile. "That makes sense." The Tower Master of Heavenly Delight Pavilion nodded and looked at the woman in a colorful dress. "Meow meow, shall we go now? As long as you guys are happy." Meow meow smiled. At the same time. Demon Palace. It can't be. That old thing is actually willing to let his precious grandson go to Wine Sea City? The Demon Palace Hall Master looked at Chu Yun, who was sitting below, in shock. This matter has already spread throughout the entire Eastern continent. Even many of our Demon Palace's disciples are already on their way to Wine Sea City. This matter can't be fake. These two little fellows really didn't disappoint us. They're getting out of hand. The corners of Chu Yun's mouth curled up slightly with a hint of playfulness. It's not that they're getting out of hand. It's the Vice Alliance leader who's unwilling to let go. I think there's not only a problem, but a huge problem. How's your investigation going? The Demon Palace Hall Master asked. The spies we arranged in the Rogue Cultivator Alliance can't get close to that old thing, so it's very difficult to investigate. Chu Yun shook her head. What about the Alliance leader of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance? The Demon Palace Hall Master asked. Chu Yun said, "This person seems to be hiding somewhere in seclusion. He doesn't seem to know about this matter yet. However, you don't have to worry. We can't investigate, but someone can." Who? The Demon Palace Hall Master was suspicious. I heard from Elder Hua that Qin Feiyang and Chu Yun seem to have become interested in the Vice Alliance leader. Think about it. As the parties involved, they will definitely do whatever it takes to investigate this matter. Chu Yun smiled. Do you mean that we just have to wait and enjoy the fruits of their labor? The Demon Palace Hall Master said. Of course it's best if we don't put in any effort. Chu Yun giggled. You little girl, the Demon Palace Hall Master shook his head and smiled. After pondering for a moment, he said, all right then. Since Elder Hua is watching, we don't have to worry. Chapter 3063. The Eastern Continent was in turmoil, but Qin Feiyang and the madman were unaware of it. Because in the Sky Cloud realm, other than Zhuo Tiansheng, they had not established a contract bridge with anyone, so naturally, no one informed them. As for Zhuo Tiansheng, now that he hated them to the bone, he definitely would not take the initiative to send them a message. Unsurprisingly, the blood-red-clothed youth had to wait for a long time. Because Qin Feiyang and the madman were now in seclusion, refining soul stones while comprehending the law profundity. Although they were multitasking, it was not a big problem for the two of them. And Qin Feiyang had only comprehended the first profundity of his three-law profundity. Although the madman had comprehended the second profundity of the law of slaughter, there was no progress in the other two. The law profundity was not only a powerful method, but also a necessary condition to step into the sovereign realm. And now, their cultivation had already stepped into the initial imperishable realm, and seeing that they were getting closer and closer to the peak, they naturally could not neglect the law profundity. Day after day, year after year passed. On this day, in the sky above the herb field, suddenly, a space-time storm appeared, emitting a terrifying destructive wave, instantly engulfing a large area of the void. This was the third profundity of the law of space, space-time storm. But soon, the space-time storm disappeared. That's right. This was Qin Baishan's breakthrough. Because in the Black Tortoise realm, only he had mastered the law of space. Some more years passed. Boom! A mysterious power surged out from one of the pavilions and into the sky. The sky above the Devil's Land immediately turned into nothingness. Little Wimp immediately appeared, staring at the area of nothingness with a trace of shock in his eyes. Soon, the phenomenon of nothingness also disappeared, and everything quickly returned to normal. Little Wimp's gaze fell on the pavilion. This pavilion was where Lu Zhengyang lived. The law of nothingness, not bad. With a murmur, Little Wimp disappeared. Almost every few years, some phenomena would appear in the Devil's Land. These phenomena were all formed by the law profundity. Because it was not Qin Feiyang, the madman, Qin Batian, and Lu Zhengyang who were working hard, the others were working hard as well. For example, Mu Tianyang and the Fiend Ancestor. Then there was Xia Yuan and the other 50 divine generals. Some of them cultivated in the Devil's Land, while others went out to comprehend the power of laws. More or less, they all gained something. Another few years passed. A dazzling divine light suddenly rushed out from a courtyard. It was not very powerful, but it contained a shocking wave of life energy that was as boundless as an ocean, instantly covering the entire Devil's Land. This is the law of life. Little Wimp appeared once again, his eyes filled with shock. Tap, along with the sound of light footsteps, a woman walked out of the pavilion. Her skin was sparkling and translucent, and she was tall and slender. She wore a light golden dress, and her wavy golden hair danced in the wind. The life energy that permeated the Devil's Land came from her. At this moment, she was like a goddess of life, charming and graceful. That was right. She was the mermaid princess. It doesn't seem that difficult. The mermaid princess glanced at the surrounding life energy, and with a thought, all the life energy immediately returned to her body. Not that difficult? Little Wimp's mouth twitched slightly when he heard this, but he didn't say anything and directly disappeared without a trace. Boom! Another few years passed. A terrifying and ferocious aura suddenly erupted from within the ancient castle. Following closely, a dark energy surged into the sky, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, like a peerless beast. At this moment, all the people in the Devil's Land who had comprehended the law profundity felt great fear. It was as if the law profundity was being pulled out of their bodies by a mysterious force. What's going on? Qin Feiyang and the madman were the first to wake up. Because they were inside the ancient castle. The two ran out of the cultivation room and looked at a tightly closed stone door. What is this white-eyed wolf doing? The madman frowned. What's the situation? Qin Batian, Lu Zhengyang, Mermaid Princess, Fire Lotus, and the others ran in one after another, their faces full of surprise. Qin Feiyang looked at them and asked, "Do you also have the illusion that the law profundity is being plundered?" The Mermaid Princess nodded. Qin Feiyang was speechless. "What are you nodding for? You didn't comprehend the law profundity." The Mermaid Princess was slightly taken aback and said with a smile, "Who said I didn't comprehend the law profundity?" "What?" Qin Feiyang looked at her in a daze. "A few years ago, I comprehended the law of life." The Mermaid Princess smiled proudly. "Law of life?" Qin Feiyang and the madman looked at each other. Boom! At this time, the dark energy that rushed out of the cultivation room was even more terrifying. At this moment, Qin Feiyang and the others felt an extremely clear sense of crisis. What kind of terrifying killing move did this white-eyed wolf comprehend? Everyone was bewildered. The law profundity felt threatened. Could it be that it had comprehended a peerless killing technique that could deprive the law profundity? As soon as this thought appeared, everyone's hearts couldn't help but tremble. Needless to say, there was really such a possibility. Because the white-eyed wolf's innate ability, the first was to deprive the battle soul, and the second was to deprive the cultivation. And they were both permanent. It was also very possible to deprive the law profundity. A moment later, the black energy gradually poured into the cultivation room, and the threat in the hearts of Qin Feiyang and the others finally disappeared. What are you all looking at outside for? Don't you have anything else to do?" The white-eyed wolf's voice came from inside, but that complacent laughter was undisguised. "Come out," Qin Feiyang said. "I'm not free." The white-eyed wolf responded and then went silent. No matter how Qin Feiyang called out, it ignored him. Pretending to be mysterious all day long. Frenzy curled his lips. Qin Feiyang could directly barge in. After all, he was the owner of the ancient castle, and it was only a matter of thought for him to go anywhere. But thinking about it, there was no need. Because even if he went in and found the white-eyed wolf, if the white-eyed wolf didn't say anything, there was nothing he could do. Let's disperse." Qin Feiyang waved his hand, but then seemed to think of something and said, "Wait." He quickly looked at the Mermaid Princess and asked, "You just said that you comprehended the law of life?" "Yes." The Mermaid Princess nodded. Qin Feiyang said, "Is it the law of life in the 6-word divine formula?" "I'm not sure about that. Besides, the life and death of the 6-word divine formula might not necessarily imply the law of life and death." The Mermaid Princess shook her head. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. It seemed to make sense, because until now, he still hadn't figured out what this life and death represented. However, this little girl comprehending the law of life was really surprising. Qin Feiyang asked, "How did you comprehend it?" "Just thinking about it, I suddenly had an epiphany." The Mermaid Princess said it very casually, but Qin Feiyang and the others were speechless. Just thinking about it and suddenly had an epiphany? This was really infuriating. "Alright, continue." Qin Feiyang and Frenzy looked at each other and returned to their respective cultivation rooms powerlessly. The Mermaid Princess and the others also left one after another. Qin Rushuang glanced at the Mermaid Princess and said with a pout, "You really make people envious." "There's no need, isn't it just a law of life?" The Mermaid Princess chuckled. "Isn't it just a law of life?" Qin Rushuang rubbed her forehead and looked at the sky. This damn girl's words were so infuriating. The law of life and death could be said to be the strongest law in the world. Because they represented life and death. Who in the world could escape from life and death? Therefore, the law of life and death was the law of life that countless creatures dreamed of. But this damn girl, not only did she comprehend it, but she also said it in a casual tone. How could she, who didn't even comprehend the most ordinary law of life, endure this? It was a blow to her. No. She couldn't stay behind closed doors anymore. She had to go out for a walk. Qin Rushuang muttered and turned to leave without looking back. Sister Rushuang, where are you going? The mermaid princess hurriedly asked. I'm going to go out and find a man to come back. Otherwise, I'll really become an old leftover woman. Qin Rushuang said without looking back. The mermaid princess was stunned and then couldn't help but shake her head and laugh. It seemed that Sister Rushuang was quite concerned about being called an old leftover woman. Chapter 3064. On the third morning after the white-eyed wolf's incident, Zhuo Xiaoxian received a message. Father? Zhuo Xiaoxian was startled as she took out the communicative stone, before she immediately received the message. It was indeed Zhuo Tiansheng. Father. Zhuo Xiaoxian was extremely excited. It had been tens of thousands of years since she last saw her father in the Xianwu world. She missed him a lot. Zhuo Tiansheng looked at his daughter guiltily and asked, How have you been these years? I've been fine. How about you? Zhuo Xiaoxian nodded. Same old. Zhuo Tiansheng wore a faint smile, but his expression was rather haggard. Zhuo Xiaoxian asked suspiciously, Father, did you encounter any trouble? Just some trivial matters. Zhuo Tiansheng waved his hand and asked, Daughter, you won't blame me, will you? Blame you? Zhuo Xiaoxian was slightly startled, before she blurted out, I can't thank you enough for helping me in Little Lunatic. Why would I blame you? Zhuo Tiansheng was startled. He glanced at Zhuo Xiaoxian suspiciously. Did this girl not know about the severing of the father-daughter relationship? Xiaoxian, let's go for a walk. At this moment, the mermaid princess' voice could be heard from outside. She then entered the room with a gentle smile. However, when she saw Zhuo Tiansheng, the mermaid princess' eyes widened. She immediately went up to him and said with a smile, Master Zhuo. You are? Zhuo Tiansheng glanced at the mermaid princess suspiciously. Father, she's the sister-in-law I told you about. She's very nice to me. Zhuo Xiaoxian quickly explained. Zhuo Tiansheng came to a realization, I see. Thank you for taking care of Xiaoxian. Xiaoxian is like my own sister to me. It's my duty to take care of her. The mermaid princess let out a smile. She turned around and took the communicative stone from Zhuo Xiaoxian's hand. She then looked at Zhuo Xiaoxian and said, Xiaoxian, can you leave us alone for a moment? I have some personal matters to discuss with your father. Can't I listen? Zhuo Xiaoxian was startled. Be good. The mermaid princess smiled faintly. All right. Zhuo Xiaoxian nodded helplessly, then turned and walked out of the room. The mermaid princess waved her hand and the door slowly closed. She looked at Zhuo Tiansheng and said, We haven't told Xiaoxian that you've severed ties with your daughter. I really don't know. Zhuo Tiansheng mumbled. We're doing this for her own good. After all, you're very important to her. If he knew about this, he would definitely run to you regardless of the consequences. Now that she's wanted everywhere, she'll definitely die if she runs out. The mermaid princess said. Thank you for always thinking of Xian. Zhuo Tiansheng said gratefully, and then said in a deep voice, But I don't understand, why did you kill my 2 sons? Has the Vice Alliance leader of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance let you go? The mermaid princess replied with a question. Yes. Zhuo Tiansheng nodded. Then, he froze and hurriedly asked, Are you really helping me? That's right. After all, you're Xiaoxian's father. And you're also helping Xiaoxian and senior brother Frenzy, so of course we won't let you bear this pressure alone. The mermaid princess nodded. Then we can think of other ways. After all, they are my children, Xiao Xian's biological brothers. Zhuo Tiansheng frowned. You might not know us well. Anyone who is targeted by us is basically a person who deserves to die. Speaking of which, you're still very incompetent as a father. You didn't even notice the matter between your children. The mermaid princess shook her head. You said they all deserve to die. Zhuo Tiansheng couldn't accept it. Instead of questioning me, you might as well pay attention to your sons. The mermaid princess didn't explain. Some things had to be discovered by the person involved. Zhuo Tiansheng frowned. She actually said that he was incompetent? What did she say about paying attention to his sons? Could it be, suddenly? His gaze trembled as he looked at the mermaid princess in disbelief. He asked, Xiao Xian and them. As the deputy city lord of a super-large city like Wind Sea City, how could he be an idiot? So he thought of something, but it was hard to accept for a moment. The mermaid princess waved her hand and said, Don't ask me, you can slowly observe for yourself. All right. Zhuo Tiansheng nodded and then said, Where are Qin Badian and Little Frenzy? They're all in seclusion. The mermaid princess said truthfully. Hearing this, Zhuo Tiansheng wanted to say something but hesitated. The mermaid princess smiled and said, If there's anything you want to say, just say it. There's indeed one thing. Zhuo Tiansheng explained the situation of the blood-red clothed youth in detail. The deputy leader's grandson? The mermaid princess was taken aback. Yes. Zhuo Tiansheng nodded. The mermaid princess pondered for a moment and nodded, All right, I'll go tell Fei Yang and senior brother Frenzy right away. Don't talk nonsense. Although this person is arrogant, he's still the deputy leader's grandson. We can't afford to offend him. I'm not telling you to kill him, but to tell you to be careful in the future. Zhuo Tiansheng said. Thank you. The mermaid princess smiled slightly and called Zhuo Xiaoxian in. She then entered the castle and found Frenzy and Qin Feiyang. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang and Zhuo Xiaoxian were also quite surprised. Even the deputy leader's grandson had come. They really thought highly of them. Zhuo Tiansheng said not to provoke him. The mermaid princess said. The key is that he's the one provoking us now. Besides, he even issued a challenge. If we still hide, how can we survive in the sky cloud realm in the future? Frenzy laughed. The mermaid princess was helpless. She knew it would end like this. Qin Feiyang glanced at Frenzy, then looked at the mermaid princess and asked, What's this person's character like? Not good. I heard from Zhuo Tiansheng that this person is extremely arrogant. When he first appeared in Wind Sea City, he arrogantly and unreasonably killed a few guards. He even insulted Zhuo Tiansheng and the other two in front of everyone. And these years, he has been mingling in various brothels, seeking pleasure all day long. The mermaid princess said. No way. Even Zhuo Tiansheng and the others are like this? Frenzy was stunned. Yes. So you can imagine how arrogant this person is. The mermaid princess nodded. What about his cultivation? Qin Feiyang asked. It seems to be a beginner-level immortal realm. The mermaid princess said. What the hell, a beginner-level immortal realm is so arrogant? Frenzy frowned. Cough cough. Senior brother, you are also a beginner-level immortal realm, but you don't seem to be more low-key than him. Qin Feiyang coughed dryly and kindly reminded him. How can we be the same? He is arrogant because of his grandfather behind him, but I am relying on myself. There is a big difference. Frenzy curled his lips. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but laugh. Don't be long-winded, let's go and take a look. Frenzy urged. You guys really want to go? The mermaid princess looked at the two. Of course. A cold light flashed in Frenzy's eyes. Yes, we have to go. Qin Feiyang nodded. But, the mermaid princess was a little worried. Why does the vice leader want to kill us? This is the question we have been trying to figure out. But we don't even know where the vice leader is, so there is no way to investigate. And now, his grandson has taken the initiative to come to our door, so why should we be polite? Moreover, I like to deal with this kind of playboy the most. Frenzy sneered. All right. The mermaid princess nodded, looked at the two, and said, then you guys be careful. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed slightly, looked at Frenzy, and said with a smile, actually, this matter isn't urgent. Why? Frenzy was suspicious. As the grandson of the vice leader, he has already issued the challenge. Without seeing us, his pride won't allow him to leave. We might as well continue to cultivate for a period of time. I feel that I have already comprehended the second profound of the three laws. Give me some more time, and I should be able to comprehend it. Qin Feiyang said. I agree. After all, he is the grandson of the vice leader. We can't underestimate him. The more tricks you guys have, the more chances you have of winning. The mermaid princess nodded. Frenzy lowered his head and thought for a moment before gritting his teeth, all right, let him wait. Coincidentally, I have also comprehended the third profound of the slaughter law. Qin Feiyang nodded, then sized up Frenzy, and said, speaking of which, what kind of law did you inherit in the temple? It's none of your business. Frenzy turned around and entered the cultivation room, leaving Qin Feiyang and the mermaid princess looking at each other. The white-eyed wolf is like this, and so is he. Can't we have fun together? Qin Feiyang collected his thoughts and shook his head helplessly. What's the rush? We'll find out sooner or later. The mermaid princess smiled. Meanwhile, Zhuo Tiansheng and Zhuo Xiaoxian chatted for a while before returning to the city lord's mansion. Not only was Xing Sen a terrifying expert in the city lord's mansion, the young man in a blood-red outfit was also there. Therefore, he would definitely not be at the city lord's mansion. After returning to the city lord's mansion, he sat alone in the main hall with his head lowered. His eyes were glittering, as if he was thinking about something. A while later, Old Man Yu came in and closed the door. He transmitted his voice, did you see Xiaoxian? Yes. Zhuo Tiansheng nodded. Is she doing well? Old Man Yu asked with a smile. Not bad. Qin Feiyang and the others are treating her well too. Besides, I know that Qin Batian and Little Crazy did cause a ruckus at the Purple Smoke Pagoda to help me. Zhuo Tiansheng transmitted his voice. Old Man Yu was slightly startled, before he mumbled, that's a good thing. Why do you look so troubled? Zhuo Tiansheng pondered for a while, before he raised his head and looked at Old Man Yu. Old Man Yu, even though you're a consecrator of the city lord's mansion, both the city lord and I treat you like family. I can feel that. Old Man Yu nodded and said in a suspicious tone, but why are you suddenly mentioning this? Zhuo Tiansheng said, then let me ask you, if the relationship between my children isn't as simple as it seems, what should I do? Well, I don't quite understand. Old Man Yu shook his head. To be honest, when I was talking to Qin Feiyang, I vaguely revealed some bad news. Xiaoxian has been having a hard time in the city lord's mansion. And it's all because of her brothers. Zhuo Tiansheng sighed. You mean, they're jealous of how much you dote on Xiaoxian? Old Man Yu was surprised. Yes. So I want you to investigate this matter for me. You must get to the bottom of it. Zhuo Tiansheng looked at Old Man Yu pleadingly. He wanted to investigate it himself, but he was afraid of seeing the truth and feeling upset. Old Man Yu looked deeply at Zhuo Tiansheng and nodded, okay, I'll do it right away. With that, he turned around and left quickly. I hope it's not what I think. After Zhuo Tiansheng watched Old Man Yu leave, he looked up at the top of the hall and muttered to himself. Chapter 3065. Time flew by. One day, half a month later, Elder Yu went to find Zhuo Tiansheng with a heavy heart. The mayor happened to be there as well. He had also learned of some things. Looking at Elder Yu's expression, the two of them, who were originally in a good mood, immediately fell. Tell me. Zhuo Tiansheng took a deep breath and looked at Elder Yu. According to my investigation in the past half a month, I found that there is indeed something wrong with the young masters. Elder Yu sighed. Although Zhuo Tiansheng was mentally prepared, he still couldn't help but close his eyes in pain. The mayor glanced at Zhuo Tiansheng, then asked Elder Yu, "Do they deserve to die?" "To outsiders, they do," Elder Yu said. In other words, it was up to Zhuo Tiansheng as a father to bear with it. Sigh. We've been living by Xiao Xian's side all this time, but we didn't notice at all. I'm not a qualified foster father, and you're not a qualified father either. The mayor turned to Zhuo Tiansheng and sighed. The funniest thing is that I need someone else to remind me. How stupid am I? How did Xiao Xian survive all these years? I finally understand why she didn't want to come back with us. She was tired of this home and the people here. Zhuo Tiansheng clenched his fists, his face full of self-blame. Xiao Xian knew that you were usually very busy and didn't want to tell you. She didn't want to destroy this home, so she endured it alone. What a sensible child. Elder Yu smiled with relief. The mayor looked at Elder Yu and nodded. Yes, she has always been very sensible. Then, he turned to Zhuo Tiansheng and asked, "Old Zhuo, what do you plan to do?" A home without sincerity or kinship, only scheming and scheming. Is this even a home? Zhuo Tiansheng's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Elder Yu's heart trembled. Why don't you give them another chance? After all, they are your flesh and blood. Give them a chance? Have they ever given Xiao Xian a chance? You've all seen Xiao Xian's attitude towards them. She just wants to use sincerity to influence them. But have they ever given her a chance? No. Even when Xiao Xian was kidnapped by the madman, they weren't worried at all. Instead, they were gloating. Zhuo Tiansheng slammed his palm on the tea table and suddenly stood up. He roared, "Although I, Zhuo Tiansheng, am cruel and merciless, I still care about my family. But what about them? These heartless people must be killed. At worst, I'll just give birth to a few more in the future." From this, it was not hard to see that Zhuo Tiansheng was indeed a ruthless person. However, it was undeniable that he was also a man who cared about his family and had principles. "All right." Old Man Yu nodded, then said, "But now, they're fighting fiercely with Yi Yuan, it's not good to make a move." At the mention of this, Zhuo Tiansheng became even angrier. Yi Yuan was the blood-robed youth. Back then, Yi Yuan had publicly humiliated him, the city lord, and Elder Yu. But these unfilial sons, not only did they not stand up for him, they even fooled around with Yi Yuan every day. Flattering and fawning, as if Yi Yuan was their real father. The city lord thought for a moment, then looked at Zhuo Tiansheng and said, "Old Zhuo, let's put this aside for now. We'll talk about it after Yi Yuan and Third Xing leave." "Then when do you think they will leave?" Zhuo Tiansheng asked. "How would I know?" The city lord smiled bitterly. "That's right. As the grandson of the vice leader, Yi Yuan has already issued a challenge in public. Before seeing Qin Feiyang and the little lunatic, how can he just leave like this? If these unfilial sons follow him for a long time, who knows what they will become?" Zhuo Tiansheng said. "I understand, but we really can't touch them now," the city lord said. Sigh. "I have to look at other people's faces to kill a few unfilial sons. I'm really a coward as the vice city lord." Zhuo Tiansheng was furious. On the street. "Big brother Yi, which chick do you think is not bad?" 11 young men in luxurious clothes were following behind a young man in blood-red clothes. They were constantly pointing at the passing girls and laughing obscenely without stopping. That's right. This group of people was Yi Yuan and Zhuo Tiancheng's sons. She's not bad. Yi Yuan looked at the girl. She looked to be about 17 or 18 years old. She looked fresh and very cute. Hearing this, the group of playboys immediately ran up and grabbed the young girl. "What are you doing?" the girl suddenly exclaimed. The people around looked over. Although their eyes were full of sympathy, no one stepped forward to stop them. Not to mention Yi Yuan, even the Zhuo family's playboys were not people they dared to offend. Don't be shameless. Don't be chosen by Big Brother Yi. It's your honor. So. The 11 young men dragged the young girl and walked in front of Yi Yuan. Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you. You just have to accompany me for a few drinks. Yi Yuan pinched the girl's chin and chuckled. I don't want, young Master Yi, I beg you, let me go. The young girl exclaimed, her face pale. You really don't want face. The Zhuo family's third young master immediately slapped the girl's face. Yi Yuan grabbed the Zhuo family's third young master's arm and said unhappily, a dignified man hitting a person, don't you feel ashamed? Besides, you hurt her. Who's going to accompany me for a drink? Big Brother Yi, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. The Zhuo family's third young master hurriedly bowed and smiled flatteringly. Yi Yuan let go of the Zhuo family's third young master and looked at the young girl with a smile. Little girl, I'll ask you one last time. Do you want to accompany me for a drink? The young girl's face was full of fear. A forcibly picked melon is not sweet. Since you don't want to, then forget it. Yi Yuan shook his head, got up and left disappointedly. Thank you for your mercy, young master. The young girl said gratefully. However, before she finished speaking, Yi Yuan waved his hand without looking back. A ray of divine power swept out and entered the girl's forehead. Accompanied by a painful scream, a blood puppet suddenly appeared on the girl's head. Blood flowed like a stream. Immediately, the girl fell straight to the ground. Did you see that? Don't hit a girl. Just kill a disobedient one. This is what a man should do. Do you understand? Yi Yuan seemed to have done something very proud. He said to the Zhuo family's playboys without looking back. Yes, yes, yes. Big Brother Yi is indeed a real man. We will remember. The group of playboys nodded their heads. Bullying men and tyrannizing women. Killing people when they don't obey. Simply insane. After Yi Yuan's group left, the people on the street looked at the young girl lying in a pool of blood. Their eyes were filled with grief and indignation. But what could they do? The grandson of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance's Vice Alliance leader. Even the two city lords had to bow their heads, let alone ordinary people like them. Daughter, don't worry. Evil people have their own retribution. Sooner or later, he will suffer retribution. An old man walked forward. Looking at the young girl who died with her eyes open, he raised his wrinkled and calloused hand and slowly closed the girl's eyes. The old man and the young girl did not know each other. However, he could not bear to see her corpse on the street. He carried the young girl and walked out of the city to find a place to bury her. That's right. He will definitely suffer retribution. And the Zhuo family's trash. They will not have a good ending if they help a villain do evil. Everyone roared in their hearts. At the city gate, thousands of people lined up in a long line, entering and exiting. When the old man carried the young girl's corpse and walked out, everyone retreated to the side. Another one. So inhumane. Someone cursed in a low voice. The city guards heard these curses but did not reprimand them, let alone capture them. This was because there was a trace of anger in their eyes. Yes. This was not the first time. In these years, who knew how many young and beautiful girls had suffered from Yi Yuan's scourge? Old man, your granddaughter is. When the old man carried the girl's corpse and walked a few miles away from the city gate, two young men came forward and looked at the old man suspiciously. She is not this old man's granddaughter. The old man stopped and said hoarsely. If she is not your granddaughter, then is she your daughter? One of the two young men was dressed in black and the other was dressed in white. Their auras were restrained and they looked amiable. She is also not this old man's daughter. The old man shook his head. Then who is she? The two of them were suspicious. She is a pitiful girl. The old man shook his head and sighed. He carried the girl's corpse and walked past the two young men, gradually disappearing into the mountains. The two young men looked at each other. What was going on? A middle-aged man who was passing by witnessed the entire process with his own eyes. Looking at the old man's back, he could not help but sigh. Then, the middle-aged man looked at the two young men and said, "Two brothers, this is your first time in Wind Sea City, right?" "Yes." The two of them nodded. "No wonder you don't know. That old man is a kind-hearted person. He went to bury the girl's corpse." The middle-aged man said. "Then what's going on?" The two young men frowned. "You don't know, but a few years ago, a person from Yi Yuan came to our Wind Sea City. He is the grandson of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance's deputy leader. Ever since he came to Wind Sea City, he has been harming the girls in the city. If we follow his wishes, it will be fine. Although we will lose our innocence, we can at least keep our lives. But if we don't, this beast will directly kill them. I think the girl in the old man's arms should have been killed like this." The middle-aged man sighed. "What? Is there still any humanity in this?" The two young men were furious. "So what if there's no humanity? Even the two city lords have to be respectful in front of him, let alone us ordinary people. In the past few years, the number of girls who have died tragically in Yi Yuan's hands is at least 800 if not 1,000. It has long aroused the anger of both men and gods, but who can do anything to him? The most hateful thing is that the Zhuo family's playboy scum. As the son of the city lord, not only did he not think of a way to protect us, but he also helped the tiger do evil. God is blind." The middle-aged man cried out in grief. "Zhuo Tiancheng's son?" The two young men frowned. Who else could it be besides them? Let's not talk about it anymore. If you have any family members, especially young women, don't let them enter Wind Sea City. The middle-aged man warned, then turned around and left quickly. Chapter 3066. Yi Yuan, deputy leader's grandson. I thought he was at most a playboy, but I didn't expect him to be a heartless bastard. The two young men's eyes flashed with cold light, full of disgust. Suddenly, the two disappeared without warning. The pedestrians coming and going looked at the two people who suddenly disappeared. They couldn't help but be stunned, but they weren't too surprised. Because in the sky cloud boundary, spatial divine objects weren't rare. They only thought that the two young men who disappeared went to the spatial divine object. Soon. In a small alley in the city. The alley was relatively remote and empty. Two figures appeared out of thin air. It was the two young men who disappeared before. The black-clothed young man looked up at the people on the street outside the alley and laughed. How do you think we should deal with Yi Yuan later? As long as you're happy. The white-clothed young man said. Huh, the black-clothed young man looked up and laughed, then walked out of the alley. Too much. Too much. Do you still have any humanity? Not long after. There was a commotion in front. The two young men walked over and saw a 17 or 18-year-old girl lying in a pool of blood. Her eyes were full of despair. Yi Yuan did it again? The black-clothed young man looked at a woman next to him and asked. Who else could it be besides him? The woman lamented. Bastard, if I don't kill him, I swear I'm not a man. The black-clothed young man roared. Shoo! What are you doing? Do you know what will happen if he hears you? Young man, it's good that you hate evil, but you also have to know how to surrender. This kind of person is not someone we can provoke. The people around quickly looked at the black-clothed young man and advised. There is no such word as surrender in my dictionary, just you wait. The black-clothed young man smiled ferociously, looked at the crowd around him and asked, where did he go? Young man, I can see that you're a good person, but you can't go looking for death. An old man exclaimed. Thank you for your concern, but there is a good saying, a man should be indomitable. When encountering such an outrageous thing, if you still go against your conscience and stand by, then what kind of man are you? I'm not afraid of death, but I'm afraid of dying without value. The black-clothed youth said in a deep voice. The old man stared blankly at the black-clothed youth. He never thought that there would be such a righteous young man in this world. How rare. All right. I'll tell you. They went to Fengyue brothel. But you must be careful. The old man said. Thank you, uncle. The young man in black clasped his hands together and smiled. He then followed the direction everyone was pointing and headed towards Fengyue brothel. The white-clothed young man glanced at the woman lying in a pool of blood, and a bone-piercing killing intent flashed across his eyes. Wind Moon Brothel. Just by hearing its name, one would know that it was a genuine brothel. The people coming in and out were all high-ranking officials and dignitaries. However, at this moment, the entire Fengyue brothel was dead silent. In the center of the hall, Yi Yuan was sitting alone at a dining table. There were all kinds of delicacies on the table. There was a woman sitting in his arms. This girl was also 16 years old and her face was deathly pale. Clearly, she was not happy, but she did not dare to resist. Because if he resisted, he would definitely die. The 11 good-for-nothings of the Zhuo family sat in a circle at the table next to him. There was also fine wine and delicacies on the table. Apart from them, the other guests were all trembling in fear, not daring to even breathe loudly. A group of waiters from the restaurant also stood cautiously behind Yi Yuan, awaiting his orders. This wine is not bad. Yi Yuan held a wine cup, put it to his nose and took a sniff, then smiled. As long as young master likes it. One of the waiters hurriedly smiled flatteringly. Yi Yuan held the wine cup and handed it to the woman in his arms. He smiled and said, "Come, try it." "I can't drink," the woman shook her head, tears already flowing out. "Can't drink?" Yi Yuan was stunned. "Don't be a wet blanket for big brother Yi." The third young master of the Zhuo family immediately looked at the woman and scolded her. Don't. Yi Yuan waved his hand and played with the woman's fingers. He smiled and said, "As a man, you must know how to take care of women." Yes. The third young master of the Zhuo family nodded repeatedly. Yi Yuan looked at the woman in his arms and smiled. "If you can't drink, then you should know something else." After saying that, Yi Yuan grabbed the woman's hair and slammed her on the table with a bang. The woman screamed, immediately bleeding from her mouth and nose. Following that, Yi Yuan stood up and looked at the woman's figure, his eyes full of evil laughter. "All of you turn around." The third young master of the Zhuo family knew what Yi Yuan wanted to do with one look and immediately shouted at the people around him. Seeing this scene, everyone also knew what was going to happen next. A trace of anger involuntarily appeared in their eyes. In public with so many people watching, he actually did such a dirty thing to a good girl. How inhumane. But they only dared to be angry but did not dare to say anything. They looked at the woman sympathetically and turned their heads away one after another. What a good figure. Yi Yuan was more and more satisfied. Young master, please, let me go. The woman desperately begged. Don't worry, this young master will take care of women. Yi Yuan chuckled and hugged the woman from behind. This is too much. It was also at this moment. There was a youth in embroidered clothes upstairs who stood up angrily. The youth in embroidered clothes had two companions and immediately held him down. Meow meow, don't be rash. If your female identity is exposed, we will be in trouble. The two of them persuaded. That's right. These three people were Yun Xiang and Yi Miao, the tower master of Tianyue Tower. The two women were disguised as men. I'm not afraid. This kind of beast deserves to die. Yi Miao gritted her teeth, her eyes full of anger. Yun Xiang and the tower master of Tianyue Tower looked at each other and looked at Yi Yuan below with a look of disgust. Where are the staff here? Why is no one coming out to welcome the guests? Suddenly, a dissatisfied and angry shout was heard. Everyone looked at the entrance of the restaurant and saw two young men striding into the restaurant. It was the youth in black and the youth in white. Looking at the scene in front of them, their eyes flashed with murderous intent. Young masters, we are sorry for the delay. A waiter quickly ran up and smiled obsequiously. It's okay. The youth in black waved his hand and looked at Yi Yuan in a daze. What is he doing? The waiter wanted to say something but stopped. Are you stupid? He is about to take off his clothes. What else can he do? The youth in white shook his head in disdain. Ah. The youth in black looked at Yi Yuan in shock and asked, You are going to do it here? Isn't this a show for everyone? As they spoke, the two of them walked towards Yi Yuan. Young masters, don't go. The waiter quickly stopped them. Why don't we go? Such an exciting show. We have to watch it from a close distance. The youth in black pushed the waiter away and walked straight to Yi Yuan's table. He ignored everyone's shocked gaze and sat down directly opposite Yi Yuan. What are you doing? The dozen of Zhuo family's playboys immediately stood up and shouted sternly. Are they courting death? The others also looked at the two of them in shock. They actually sat opposite Yi Yuan so openly. Wasn't this a deliberate provocation? Looks like we don't have to do anything. Yun Xiang looked at the two youths and laughed. Yi Miao also returned to her seat and said in surprise, They actually dared to provoke Yi Yuan. They must have eaten a lion's heart and leopard's guts. Either they have the confidence, or they are newborn calves who are not afraid of tigers. But I am more willing to believe that it is the former. After all, Yi Yuan's identity is now known by everyone in Wind Sea City. Yun Xiang smiled. Yi Miao and the owner of Tianyue Tower glanced at Yun Xiang and then looked at the two youths below. Then they looked at Yi Yuan. He let go of the woman and looked at the two youths in black sitting opposite him. He could not help but frown slightly. Don't be embarrassed. You continue. We are just watching and learning. Don't say anything. The youth in black also looked at Yi Yuan without fear and smiled. Yi Yuan returned to the table and chair. A trace of playfulness crept up in his eyes. The woman hurriedly tidied up her dress. As if she had seen her savior, she ran behind the two youths and cried silently. The youth in black looked at the woman and turned to look at the youth at the next table. He said, Give me the wine. Okay. That person nodded repeatedly and hurriedly handed the wine flask that still had half a flask of wine left to the youth in black. The youth in black grabbed the wine flask and did not use the wine cup. He raised his head and drank a mouthful. He nodded and said, refreshing. Everyone looked at each other. Was he really here to pick a fight? Motherfucker, you are courting death. The Zhuo family's third young master was furious. He took a step forward to the youth in black. Then, he grabbed the youth's shoulder and prepared to throw him out. However, he was shocked to find that the youth in black was like a mountain. He used all his strength and could not lift the youth in black. The youth in black continued to drink leisurely. He did not care about the Zhuo family's third young master at all. He also did not care about the hand that was grabbing his shoulder. He looked up at Yi Yuan and asked suspiciously, "What's wrong? With someone watching, your little brother can't do it?" Yi Yuan was silent. The playfulness at the corner of his mouth grew stronger. "You dare to ruin Big Brother Ye's good thing. You really don't know what's good for you." The Zhuo family's third young master's eyes darkened. He took out a dagger that shone with a dim light and charged at the youth in black. The youth in black smirked. He raised his arm and grabbed the dagger. Although he grabbed the dagger with his bare hand, his hand was not injured at all. The Zhuo family's third young master was stunned. Crack. Immediately after, an even more shocking scene appeared. The youth in black clenched his fist and the dagger was crushed to pieces on the spot. What? That's a legendary divine weapon. He crushed it directly. Everyone was stunned. The Zhuo family's third young master was also shocked. He immediately retreated, knowing that he had met a ruthless person. At the same time, Yi Yuan's pupils shrank slightly. To crush a legendary divine weapon with one's bare hand, one either had absolute strength or an exceptionally strong physical body. I thought I would be able to enjoy an exciting performance. How boring. The youth in black shook his head and glanced at the girl behind him. Hurry up and go home. Thank you, young master. The woman bowed gratefully, then turned and ran outside. Who said you could leave? The Zhuo family's third young master roared and grabbed the girl's hair. His eyes were extremely fierce. He was afraid of the youth in black, but this girl was like an ant in his eyes. Moreover, he firmly believed that no matter how arrogant the youth in black was, he would not dare to do anything to him. Because he was Zhuo Tiancheng's son. Chapter 3067. Young master, save me. The woman hurriedly looked at the black-clothed young man and cried for help. The black-clothed young man sighed and drank all the wine in the wine flask. Crack. As the restaurant fell and shattered, the black-clothed young man suddenly stood up and appeared in front of the Zhuo family's third young master. What do you want? The Zhuo family's third young master panicked. Didn't you hear that I told her to leave? The black-clothed young man's eyes were filled with murderous intent. His large hand shot out like lightning and grabbed the Zhuo family's third young master's neck, suspending him in the air like a little chick. How dare you? My father is Zhuo Tiancheng, the Zhuo family's third young master roared. Are you trying to say that I don't dare to kill you? The black-clothed young man's lips curled up. Do you dare to kill me? The Zhuo family's third young master roared. Don't say that. I really dare. The black-clothed young man's eyes were filled with murderous intent. His 5 fingers suddenly tightened, and the Zhuo family's third young master's neck was broken on the spot. The head, which was glaring angrily, rolled to the ground with a thud. There's no one in this world that I don't dare to kill. The black-clothed young man smiled sinisterly and stepped on the head. No, accompanied by a terrified scream, the Zhuo family's third young master's head and divine spirit shattered on the spot like a watermelon. He really killed him. The surrounding people were dumbfounded. Third brother, the remaining 10 good-for-nothings of the Zhuo family also looked at the Zhuo family's third young master's corpse in horror. They never thought that someone would dare to kill a member of the Zhuo family. You're dead for sure. How dare you kill third brother? Even a deity can't save you. Just wait to be cut into pieces. The group of good-for-nothings came back to their senses and immediately shouted at the black-clothed young man. The black-clothed young man looked at the 10 of them. The 10 of them were still hooting a moment ago, but now they began to retreat, their faces full of panic. You say a lot of things. The black-clothed young man smiled. What things? The 10 of them were suspicious. Even a deity can't save you today. As soon as he finished speaking, a murderous aura flashed across the black-clothed young man's face as he stepped forward and landed in front of one of them. Don't kill me, this was the 8th young master of the Zhuo family. When he saw the young man in black appear in front of him, he was scared out of his wits. Do you think I won't kill him just because you said so? Do you think you are Zhuo Tiansheng? Is he that important? You are nothing but a clown relying on Zhuo Tiansheng to intimidate others. The black-clothed youth laughed coldly. He grabbed the Zhuo family's 8th young master's head and clenched his fist. With a cracking sound, his head burst open on the spot, and blood and flesh flew everywhere. It's too scary. He's going to kill them all. Everyone was shocked. Who was this person? How could he be so bold? A few years ago, Qin Feiyang and Madman Mo had appeared and killed the Zhuo family's 1st and 2nd young masters. Now, 2 more ruthless people had appeared, wanting to kill all of Zhuo Tiansheng's sons. Zhuo Tiansheng's bloodline was cut off. When the remaining 9 rich kids saw this scene, they all fled outside in fear. However, the black-clothed youth was like a grim reaper. Blood splattered everywhere, dyeing the floor of the restaurant red. Broken limbs and corpses were everywhere. Some people couldn't help but run outside. The waiters of the restaurant were the same. They all ran outside in fear. However, there were some bold people who still sat in the restaurant and watched. What happened inside? Someone asked suspiciously. Something big happened. Zhuo Tiansheng's sons were all killed by a young man. A person who ran out of the restaurant said in fear. What? Who is so bold? Could it be Qin Feiyang and Madman Mo? It's not them. But this person seems to be even more arrogant than Qin Feiyang and Madman Mo, everyone was discussing. Moreover, the news spread like wildfire. Winxi City was soon in an uproar. In the restaurant, the black-clothed youth's face was stained with blood. He walked step by step toward the Zhuo family's 5th young master. Now, only the Zhuo family's 5th young master was still alive. Brother Yi, save me, the Zhuo family's 5th young master looked at the black-clothed youth in fear and shouted at Yi Yuan. From the beginning to the end, Yi Yuan had no intention of making a move. He was also not frightened by the black-clothed youth's methods. He crossed his arms and leaned against the seat. He watched everything calmly. The white-clothed youth sitting opposite Yi Yuan was the same. Brother Yi, save me, the Zhuo family's 5th young master cried out in despair. No one can save you. The black-clothed youth shook his head. He landed in front of the Zhuo family's 5th young master and kicked his head. At this moment, Yi Yuan slowly got up. The white-clothed youth opposite him smiled and also slowly got up. Yi Yuan looked at the white-clothed youth and asked, "You want to interfere?" The white-clothed youth smiled and said, "My senior brother is in high spirits, so I don't want anyone to disturb him." Is that so? The corner of Yi Yuan's mouth lifted. He turned and took a step forward. In an instant, he landed in front of the Zhuo family's 5th young master and grabbed him. However, at the same time, the white-clothed youth also landed in front of Yi Yuan. He grabbed Yi Yuan's arm and shook his head. "I said I won't let you interfere, so I definitely won't let you interfere." Yi Yuan frowned. A huge force came from his arm. However, the white-clothed youth did not feel any pressure. He looked at Yi Yuan with a faint smile on his face. Before the white-clothed youth finished speaking, the black-clothed youth kicked the Zhuo family's fifth young master's head. Accompanied by a shrill scream, the Zhuo family's fifth young master's blood splattered on the spot. At this moment, all 11 of the Zhuo family's prodigal sons were killed. Looking at the Zhuo family's fifth young master on the ground, Yi Yuan's eyes were bloodshot. He then looked at the black-clothed youth and the white-clothed youth. "You don't know who I am, right?" The white-clothed youth let go of Yi Yuan's arm and smiled. "Who doesn't know the grandson of the Itinerant Cultivator Alliance's deputy chief?" Yi Yuan was stunned and laughed cruelly. "You dare to provoke me in public even though you know? Looks like you guys have a big background." No, we're just two nobodies. It's just that, we especially like to deal with prodigal sons like you." The white-clothed youth smiled. "Prodigal sons," Yi Yuan muttered. A dangerous aura quietly spread out. He looked at the white-clothed youth and the black-clothed youth and said, "Even if I'm a prodigal son, I'm still one that you can't afford to offend. It seems like we can't afford to offend you." The white-clothed youth nodded and looked at the black-clothed youth with a smile. "Why don't we leave?" Okay, let's go." The black-clothed youth nodded. Therefore, the two of them turned and left under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Everyone was stunned. Yi Yuan himself also had a look of astonishment. They really left? Boom! The next moment, a monstrous murderous aura rushed out of Yi Yuan's body. His face also became ferocious. The entire restaurant collapsed. Not good. The people who stayed in the restaurant to watch the show immediately released their divine power to protect themselves. In the blink of an eye, the Fengyue restaurant was reduced to ruins. Everyone rushed out of the dust and saw the scene in front of them. They quickly searched for the black-clothed youth and the white-clothed youth. Where are they? They disappeared so quickly. Everyone could not help but frown. Look! They are above. Suddenly, someone shouted. Everyone immediately looked up and saw two figures standing outside the enchantment above the city. Who else could it be but the black-clothed youth and the white-clothed youth? When did they go out? One must know that this enchantment was personally set up by the city lord. Unless one's cultivation is stronger than the city lord, no one can break out. Could it be that they have mastered the spacetime laws or have a legendary spacetime artifact? Everyone was suddenly surprised. Since you want to die so much, this young master will fulfill your wish. Suddenly, accompanied by a sinister laugh, Yi Yuan rushed out of the dust and went straight to the sky. Don't, we really can't afford to offend you." The black-clothed youth waved his hand, but his face was full of amusement. Ha, Yi Yuan laughed. "Don't look so great. Want to kill us? Fine, come out." The black-clothed youth hooted. Swish! At this moment, the city lord, Third Xing, Zhuo Tianxing, and Elder Yu descended beside Yi Yuan. "What's going on now?" Zhuo Tianxing frowned. But no one answered. Because of the Zhuo family's actions, everyone was quite dissatisfied with Zhuo Tianxing. "Say it." Zhuo Tianxing grabbed the air and a middle-aged man flew up uncontrollably. The middle-aged man panicked and hurriedly said, "They just killed your son." "What?" Zhuo Tianxing suddenly looked up at the black-clothed youth and the white-clothed youth. "No one is allowed to interfere. This young master will kill them personally." Yi Yuan swept a glance at Zhuo Tianxing. "But they killed all my sons." Zhuo Tianxing roared. In fact, he didn't care much in his heart because he already had the intention to kill. But he still had to pretend to be sad. This young master doesn't want to say it a second time. Yi Yuan glanced at Zhuo Tianxing and said to the city lord, open the enchantment. This, the city lord looked at Third Xing hesitantly. In fact, he was also wondering who these two people were. They actually dared to come here and provoke Yi Yuan. Third Xing looked at the black-clothed youth and the white-clothed youth, then looked at Yi Yuan and said, "Young master, you don't have to do this kind of small matter. I'll do it for you. You don't understand my words?" Yi Yuan immediately looked over, his eyes filled with a strong cold light. Third Xing shrunk his neck, looked at the city lord and said, "Open the enchantment." "Is that really okay?" The city lord transmitted his voice. Since the other party dared to come and stood there fearlessly, they must have some confidence. "Open it." Third Xing sighed secretly. "Okay." The city lord nodded and waved his hand. A crack suddenly appeared in the enchantment. "Hurry up and leave. Otherwise, you'll definitely die." Seeing this scene, some people below secretly exclaimed. They all hated Yi Yuan to the core, so now they couldn't help but worry for the black-clothed youth and the white-clothed youth. Especially those who advised the black-clothed youth and the white-clothed youth not to find Yi Yuan not long ago. They really didn't expect that these two people would really go to Fengyue brothel to find trouble with Yi Yuan. And now, they were still standing in the air and not leaving. Weren't they waiting for death? Boom! Yi Yuan rushed out, his whole body suddenly exploding with a shocking murderous aura. Prepare to lose all hope. He laughed sinisterly. Waves of blood-colored divine power appeared, carrying a monstrous evil aura, and charged towards the black-clothed youth and the white-clothed youth. Chapter 3068. The young man in white glanced at Yi Yuan and asked, "Senior brother, do you want to do it or should I?" "Why? Are you itching for a fight too?" The young man in black asked. "A little." The young man in white nodded. "Then what should we do?" "I'm itching for a fight too." The young man in black frowned. The young man in white said, "How about this, you let me do it this time and I'll let you do it next time." "No, no." The young man in black shook his head. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he smiled. "Let's be fair. Let's play rock, paper, scissors. Whoever wins gets to go first." "Good idea." The young man in white nodded. Seeing this, the people in the city below could not help but look at each other. Yi Yuan had already charged over and they were still in the mood to discuss this? Could they show some respect to their opponents? What made everyone speechless was that the two of them really started to play rock, paper, scissors to determine the winner. Rock, paper, scissors. The two of them stood facing each other and punched at the same time. The young man in black used rock while the young man in white used paper. "I won, right?" The young man in white smiled proudly. The young man in black shook his head. "No, no. Best of 3. You're cheating." The young man in white was speechless. "Cut the crap. Hurry up." The young man in black yelled impatiently. "All right." The young man in white nodded helplessly. "Best of 3 again?" Everyone was speechless to the extreme. The city lord, Zhuo Tiansheng, an elder Yu's mouth kept twitching. Was this a joke? Even Third Xing could not hold it in anymore. He wanted to laugh but did not dare to. There was only one person present with an extremely gloomy expression. That person was Yi Yuan. Playing rock, scissors, paper, and best of 3 in front of him. This was completely humiliating him. The young man in black laughed. "I'm scissors, you're paper. I win this time." "Alright, now we're both at 1 win and 1 loss. The third round will determine the winner." The young man in white looked helpless. "You guys really haven't died yet?" Yi Yuan roared. His hair stood on end as he punched the two of them. "How annoying. Can't you see we're playing rock paper scissors? The two of them raised their heads and glared at Yi Yuan at the same time. Then, they took a step forward and instantly appeared on the other side of the void. Bastard! You don't have to guess anymore. Come at me together. Yi Yuan's lungs were about to explode. She actually found him annoying. You even need to play rock paper scissors in a fight. Whoever wins will go up. Who is the annoying one? You? Together? The black-clothed youth and the white-clothed youth stared blankly for a moment before casting disdainful glances at Yi Yuan at the same time. Damn it, you're still looking down on me? Yi Yuan was infuriated. However, the two of them ignored him and treated him as air. They shouted in unison, rock, paper, scissors. The next moment, the scene froze. The black-clothed youth had a rock, while the white-clothed youth had a pair of scissors. The black-clothed youth suddenly laughed out loud. I won, kid. If you agree to bet, you must accept your loss. Don't go back on your word. You're the one who cheated, okay? The white-clothed youth had a displeased look on his face. He had already won the first round, yet he insisted on having 3 rounds. If this wasn't cheating, what was? In the initial rules, you didn't say that the winner would be decided in 1 round, right? So, just admit defeat. Stand aside obediently and watch my performance. The black-clothed youth smiled proudly. It's so annoying to have a senior brother like you. The white-clothed youth shook his head and helplessly turned around and walked to the void not far away. He looked on with a gloomy face. Those who dare to look down on me will generally pay the price. Yi Yuan's face was gloomy as he charged towards the black-clothed youth. The other party seemed to be joking, but in fact, he was humiliating him in public. I'm not looking down on you. I'm looking down on you. The black-clothed youth grinned. He leaped up and threw a punch. Good, good, good. I'd like to see how capable you are. How dare you talk so big? Yi Yuan's face was distorted. Growing up, this was the first time he had been teased like this. Boom! Divine power roared in all directions, causing the void to tremble. The next moment, the two men's fists collided. A terrifying wave of air suddenly rolled out in all directions with the two men as the center. At the same time, accompanied by a crisp crack, the skin on Yi Yuan's fist split open and his whole body kept retreating. What? Seeing this, the people below were shocked. One had to know. Yi Yuan had used divine power, but the black-clothed youth only had a fist and nothing else. But Yi Yuan was still not a match for him. Just how strong was his physical strength and body? I see. The capital of your arrogance is your physical strength and strength. Yi Yuan suddenly smiled. How about it? The black-clothed youth looked at him provocatively. Huh, if that's the case, then you still dare to be arrogant in front of me? Yi Yuan took a divine life pill and the injury on his hand quickly healed. Then, he threw another punch at the black-clothed youth. You really won't cry until you're in the coffin. The black-clothed youth was slightly stunned. Yi Yuan actually dared to fight him head-on? Boom! The two men collided again. The black-clothed youth's face suddenly stiffened. Following which, he felt an unparalleled power roaring out from Yi Yuan's fist. The two forces collided and the two men were sent flying at the same time. What? The white-clothed youth who was watching the battle not far away was also shocked. What's wrong? Can't be arrogant anymore? Yi Yuan laughed, stabilized his body, and charged at the black-clothed youth like lightning. You underestimate me too much. I'm born arrogant. Not to mention you, even in front of your grandfather, I'll show him how arrogant I am. The black-clothed youth had a look of disdain as he raised his fist and punched. He seems to be calling himself I. The crowd below. Yun Xiang muttered. He can't be Madman Mo, right? The Tower Master of Tianyue Tower said telepathically. It seems that only he and Qin Feiyang have such a strong physical body and strength. Yun Xiang shook his head and smiled. He didn't expect it to be these two guys. Is it them? At the same time, Zhuo Tiansheng also noticed this and transmitted his voice to the city lord and elder Yu. It should be. The city lord smiled bitterly. That's right. The black-clothed youth was Madman. The white-clothed youth was naturally Qin Feiyang without any suspense. After comprehending the profound divine ability in the Black Tortoise world, the two changed their appearance, wanting to see Yi Yuan's character. In the end, he really didn't disappoint them. Bang bang bang. High up in the sky, Madman and Yi Yuan constantly collided, fist to fist, blood splattering everywhere. Qin Feiyang gradually frowned. This Yi Yuan's physical body was actually so strong? No. Suddenly, his gaze focused. Because he found that Yi Yuan's injuries were more serious than Madman's. In other words, Madman's physical body and strength were actually above Yi Yuan's. But why was his pair of fists so terrifying? Suddenly, Qin Feiyang stared at Yi Yuan's hands, as if he had discovered something, and a look of realization appeared in his eyes. He transmitted his voice, "Senior brother, he's wearing gloves." Gloves? Madman was slightly taken aback. While fighting, he looked at Yi Yuan's hands. Taking a closer look, he really found something strange. He saw that Yi Yuan's hands were suffused with a faint light. It was indeed a pair of gloves, but because it was the color of flesh, and was as soft as skin, he didn't notice it at first. I was wondering why he suddenly became so strong, so he's wearing a divine artifact. Madman's eyes flashed as he glanced at Yi Yuan's body. Because the gloves could only protect Yi Yuan's hands, it couldn't protect his body. Boom! Madman threw a punch over. Yi Yuan also threw a punch over, his face full of pride. But suddenly, Madman suddenly bent over, and Yi Yuan's fist immediately swept over Madman's head. At the same time, Madman swooped down, punching Yi Yuan's lower abdomen. "Ao!" Accompanied by an anguished wail that sounded like a pig being slaughtered, Yi Yuan's entire body arched as he flew out, his two eyeballs protruding out. "This is your so-called physical body and strength?" Madman laughed mockingly. Yi Yuan rolled into the distant void, spitting out a mouthful of blood, his face green and red as he stared at Madman. "Put away your little tricks. Because with just this little ability, you can't defeat me." Madman snickered. Boom! Yi Yuan took a step forward, divine power surging out. "No way. My punch didn't destroy your sea of qi?" Madman was taken aback. "You want to destroy this young master's qi sea? You must be dreaming." Yi Yuan laughed contemptuously, and with a monstrous divine power, he punched Madman's head. Still not giving up? Madman raised his eyebrows, and his entire body suddenly erupted with a monstrous divine power. Divine power surged, condensed on his fist, and punched out. Yes. He hadn't used his divine power, and was completely relying on his physical body to fight Yi Yuan. Initial stage immortal realm? He already broke through? At the same time, seeing Madman's aura, Zhuo Tiansheng and the others were secretly shocked. They were originally a little worried because Madman was only half-step immortal realm, and Yi Yuan was an initial stage immortal realm, a small realm higher than him. But they didn't expect little Madman to also be an initial stage immortal realm cultivator. They were both initial stage immortal realm cultivators, so little Madman should have no problem dealing with Yi Yuan. Boom! With Madman's divine power erupting, the lethality of his punch was even more terrifying. The fist in Yi Yuan's hand directly shattered, turning into fragments. His entire body was sent flying by the power of this punch, and blood gushed out. So he has a divine artifact in his hand. I really thought his physical body was comparable to this person's. Everyone began to discuss in low voices. Hearing these discussions, Third Xing's eyes filled with anger, and he shouted, "All of you, shut up." He understood Yi Yuan, and he knew Yi Yuan's pride. If he heard these discussions, he would definitely feel humiliated. Madman grabbed a piece of debris, glanced at it, and then looked at Yi Yuan, saying contemptuously, "If you don't have the ability, don't pretend in front of me." Yi Yuan's face sank. Whoosh! With the emergence of divine power, an even more terrifying divine power erupted like a volcano. The next moment, that blood-red divine power turned into a raging wave, drowning the sky and heading toward Madman. There was a great sense of danger inside. Divine technique? Madman smiled disdainfully, and his divine power roared. Without any fancy moves, he punched out again. With a loud bang, the blood-colored angry wave immediately collapsed in the void. Chapter 3069. This was the power of Madman. An honorable level physical body, honorable level strength, and honorable level divine power, could unleash an extremely terrifying destructive power. Yi Yuan's god art was only at the sovereign level. Puff! As the blood wave dissipated, Yi Yuan spat out another mouthful of blood. The grandson of the vice leader only has this much strength? I heard that you are a monster, why don't you look like one? If someone like you is considered a monster, then wouldn't everyone be a monster? Madman's face was full of mockery. The people in the city below all held back their laughter, it was really satisfying. This kind of beast scum should be ruthlessly dealt with. Yi Yuan looked at Madman, his eyes narrowed, flashing with blood light. At the same time, he slowly raised his arm, wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, then lowered his head, looking at the blood on his hand. Fresh blood. Can make me excited, make me boil. Suddenly, Yi Yuan smiled sinisterly, a thick blood energy appeared all over his body, a cold and ruthless aura spread out. At this moment, his temperament changed greatly, as if he was a violent beast. Roar! The next moment, he let out a beast-like roar, blood energy curling around his body. Step by step, he charged towards Madman. It's quite scary. Madman's neck shrank back, laughing, I hope it's not just for show. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the two of them clashed. Yi Yuan actually didn't activate his divine art, and just fought with Madman bare-chested. Madman was naturally very happy. Because in terms of body and strength, he had an absolute advantage. Boom! One punch sent Yi Yuan flying. Bang! Another kick sent Yi Yuan flying. It was like playing. But gradually, Madman couldn't help but frown. Because he found that no matter how injured Yi Yuan was, he could stand up again. There was no sign of weakness on his face. What he couldn't understand the most was that he couldn't give Yi Yuan a fatal blow. And the excitement between Yi Yuan's brows became more and more intense. Lord Envoy, what is going on? The city lord, Zhuo Tiansheng, and Elder Yu were also shocked. Young master has cultivated a god art that allows him to have an undying body. The more serious the injury and the more blood loss, the more excited and powerful he becomes. Furthermore, this deity technique specializes in increasing the strength of one's physical body and strength. In other words, this person is purely looking for a beating if he wants to compete with you in terms of physical strength and physical strength. Third Xing transmitted his voice. There's such a divine art? The three of them frowned. Looking at the two people in the sky, they couldn't help but worry. Naturally, he was worried about the madman. Qin Feiyang also noticed this and couldn't help but frown. Jiejie, it seems that your physical body and strength are only so. Yi Yuan laughed nastily. Madman clenched his fists and divine power surged out like a flood. He didn't hold back and punched Yi Yuan in the stomach. Boom! Yi Yuan flew out, his blood staining the sky. However, yet, he acted as if nothing had happened. One had to know that in the same realm, the mad scientist's full-powered punch was enough to shatter anyone's sea of qi. But now, Yi Yuan's qi sea was undamaged. The most frightening thing was that there was still excitement between his brows, and there was no sign of weakness. No, I'm not strong enough. Yi Yuan laughed wildly, the blood energy around his body became thicker, as if he was a demon god bathed in blood. What the hell? Madman raised his eyebrows. Little madman, this is because he cultivated a deity technique, the city lord's voice suddenly sounded in Madman's mind. He recognized me just like that? Madman was slightly taken aback and then looked at Yi Yuan who was charging over like a wild beast. He muttered, so it's like that. An undying body, that was impossible. Just like Zhuge Mingyang back then, who had such a heaven-defying undying demonic technique, he still died in the hands of Qin Feiyang and the others. Now that he couldn't kill Yi Yuan, that was because he wasn't strong enough. Boom! Madman went all out, his fists and legs crazily raining down on Yi Yuan. Yi Yuan was covered in blood, his body covered in wounds. However, his aura was becoming more and more terrifying. Madman also discovered that Yi Yuan's physical body and strength were also increasing. So the more blood loss and the more injured one was, the stronger one was? In other words, by doing this, not only would he not be able to kill Yi Yuan, but he would also make Yi Yuan stronger? What? Are you desperate? Don't be in such a hurry, this is just a warm-up. Yi Yuan grinned hideously. The bloody aura around him was about to bury his entire being. Boom! The two punched each other again. Puff! Yi Yuan spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out like a meteor. But at the same time, the madman's body shook violently and he coughed out a mouthful of blood. He was forced to retreat. This madman's face was filled with disbelief. Yi Yuan's current strength and physical body was already infinitely close to the sovereign level. What kind of deity technique was this? The more injured one was, the more blood loss, the stronger one was? Boom! Another collision. Yi Yuan's strength suddenly increased and sent Madman flying with one punch. His arm was also lacerated and blood flowed out. Sovereign level. Madman's eyes trembled. That's right. At this moment, Yi Yuan's physical body and strength had already reached the sovereign level. Looks like senior brother is going to be in a tough battle. Qin Feiyang muttered, it seemed that he had indeed underestimated this person. Next. Whether it was Yi Yuan's strength or physical body, he was no longer inferior to Madman. The two were locked in a fierce battle in the air. Blood was like rain as it scattered on the barrier, appearing particularly dazzling. Is this still the playboy we know? Elder Yu looked at the current Yi Yuan and found it hard to accept this fact. The facts have already proven that we were all fooled by his facade in the past. This person is the grandson of the Deputy Alliance leader, how could he be a mediocre playboy? The city lord and Zhuo Tiansheng couldn't help but sigh. The so-called playboy was just an act for everyone to see. The people in the city couldn't help but worry about Madman. Not to mention that they didn't know Madman's identity, even if they knew, they would still support Madman. Because compared to Madman and Qin Feiyang, this Yi Yuan was even more hateful. Although Madman and Qin Feiyang had caused a lot of trouble in Wind Sea City these years, at least they weren't as inhumane as Yi Yuan, who killed the innocent. Bang! After hundreds of rounds, Madman suddenly smashed into the barrier below like a meteorite, his entire body dripping with blood. How is it? Now that this young master's strength and physical body are stronger than yours, your strongest move no longer has any advantage. Still dare to be arrogant? Yi Yuan stood in the air, raising his head and laughing wildly. Madman got up, his eyes rather gloomy. Not bad. Yi Yuan's physical body and strength did not stop after increasing to the sovereign level, and continued to become stronger. Could it be that this was the same as Qin Feiyang's slaughter domain, which could increase endlessly? Swoosh! Yi Yuan took a step forward and instantly landed in front of Madman, punching towards Madman's Qi. Madman didn't dare to be careless. Because he wasn't Yi Yuan. If his Qi was hit by Yi Yuan's punch, it would definitely shatter on the spot. Swoosh! Without hesitation, he used the support divine art and retreated like lightning. Finally activated the divine art. Yi Yuan's punch missed, and he laughed mockingly. He also used a mysterious footwork and charged towards Madman. As the grandson of the vice leader, he naturally didn't lack a divine art. Madman's eyes flashed. Now that he had lost his advantage in strength and physical body, he could only activate the divine art. Clang! The blood demon seal appeared, and as if it was dyed in blood, a bright blood light dyed half the sky. Suppress! Madman roared, and the blood demon seal descended from the sky, like a mountain, charging towards Yi Yuan. Huh, just now you shattered this young master's divine art with one punch, now this young master will let you experience it. Yi Yuan laughed wildly, his divine power surging as he punched towards the blood demon seal. Kacha! The blood demon seal shattered in the air. Madman's body trembled, and a mouthful of blood rushed up to his throat. Shwa! At this moment, Yi Yuan charged in front of Madman, and slapped towards Madman's lower abdomen. Madman was shocked, and quickly retreated. The second move of the blood demon seal appeared, and a terrifying sound wave rushed towards Yi Yuan like a flood. Still a sovereign-level divine art? Yi Yuan's face was full of disdain, but he still punched. The invisible sound wave couldn't stop him. What kind of divine art is this? It's too perverted. Madman was a little annoyed. Because he could clearly feel that Yi Yuan's physical body and strength were still getting stronger. Could it be that it could still increase to a heaven-defying level? This young master's physical body and strength can only increase to this level, and you can't do it? You really disappoint this young master. Yi Yuan shook his head, and charged towards Madman. Madman was forced to retreat, and he was in a sorry state. Because now, in terms of physical body and strength, he was no longer comparable to Yi Yuan. This is indeed similar to the slaughter domain. Qin Feiyang mumbled. City Lord, what should we do? If this continues, little Madman will definitely die. Zhuo Tiansheng transmitted. He isn't worried himself, why are you worried? Moreover, they have someone who can control the space-time laws. If they can't win, escaping isn't a problem. The only worry now is Xing San. If he attacks unexpectedly, Qin Feiyang and Little Madman might not even have the chance to activate the space-time laws. City Lord thought. Zhuo Tiansheng's heart trembled, and he glanced at Xing San, and smiled bitterly, then even if he attacks, we can't stop him. So, they shouldn't have come to Wine Sea City. City Lord sighed. Bang! During the conversation, Madman was once again sent flying by Yi Yuan, and crashed into the enchantment in the sky. His entire body was covered in wounds. Quickly run. In the city below, some people couldn't help but roar in their hearts. Unfortunately, Madman couldn't hear it. They didn't dare to shout it out. And even if Madman heard it, he wouldn't run, because this wasn't his character. In this world, Yi Yuan wasn't the only one who became stronger when encountering a strong opponent. He was the same. And he became stronger when encountering a strong opponent. It wasn't his strength or physical body that became stronger, but his fighting spirit and fighting spirit. This was undoubtedly even more terrifying. No matter how strong a person was, without fighting spirit and fighting spirit, he wouldn't be able to display all his strength. And a weak person, as long as his fighting spirit and fighting spirit were not extinguished, he would be able to display 120% of his battle strength. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.